Football, with such strong skills, even nightclubs can produce football kings. Hey, fanfic family. So glad to see you here again to continue this incredible adventure. As always, kindly remember, this story is 100% fiction, so don't go looking for dimensional portals in your closet. All rights to this fantastic novel belong to the original author. We're just your humble narrators of epic tales. Are you enjoying the fanfic? Show it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and dropping us a like. And if you're impatient for more exclusive content, our Patreon is your happy place. Chapter 001. Violation of Professional Ethics? Dismissed, June 2015, North Rhine, Germany. The atmosphere in the U-17 office at the Mönchengladbach youth training base was slightly depressing. Youth training director Blair was sitting at the table, holding a data sheet in his hand, his chest rising and falling slightly, and he frowned at the black-haired Chinese boy in front of him. Feng, should you explain to me why you were late for morning training 4 times this week, and according to rumors, you seem to go to nightclubs and be obsessed with video games? If that's the case, how about we choose a better way to deal with it and just give up football? What do you think? Blair's eyes were filled with disgust, and he tried his best to make his tone as calm as possible. Why waste time here? Facing Blair's questioning, Feng showed no expression, shook his head and said, Mr. Blair, I think these hobbies of mine have not affected my game. Didn't they affect your game? Blair seemed angry. He smiled, threw the youth team statistics sheet in his hand in front of Feng, and asked with a straight face, has late training and alcoholism not affected your game? Take a look at your recent data reports. Why are your running data on the court getting worse and worse? In the last game against Hamburg U17, the running data is only a pitiful 3,600 meters. 3,600 meters. I really can't believe that this is a statistic run by a 17-year-old player. It is so pitiful. This is not a time either. Twice. 2 weeks ago against Bayern Munich U17, your running time was only 3,900 meters. Do y'all think you are Berbatov? Berbatov is a famous dashing figure in football, elder brother because of his elegant playing style and his ability to perform well despite rarely running. He was nicknamed Brother Chick by fans. Blair became more and more angry as he talked, and took out a cigarette from the table, trying to relieve his mood at the moment, but he couldn't find a lighter with the cigarette in his mouth. With a click sound, the lighter ignited. Blair was stunned, and then saw a small flame rising in front of his eyes. He habitually blocked the wind with one hand, lit the cigarette, and took a puff before coming back to his senses. You still smoke? Blair asked with a black face, and the atmosphere suddenly fell into embarrassment. How could that be? Feng looked helpless. He stood there with his hands spread out and put the lighter back. It's just used to light mosquito coils, as if he wanted to change the subject quickly. Feng then said, Mr. Blair, I always believe that as long as a player can contribute to the team, if he can shoot and assist, he can be regarded as an excellent professional player, not as narrowly as you think. Blair, he serves as the director of youth training at Mönchengladbach. He holds a high position and holds all the power in the youth training team. No youth training player has ever dared to speak to him like this. What nonsense, Mr. Blair was visibly angry and started to speak with saliva. My private life is in chaos. I frequently violate the ethics of professional players. Other players are practicing hard on the court, but what about you? You hang out in nightclubs at night and indulge in games during holidays. Do you have the attitude of a professional player? I seriously doubt whether you really love football. I tell you, don't think that there is stability in the youth league. If you play, you can indulge yourself. Mönchengladbach has never lacked talent, and it doesn't need players with no professional ethics like you. If you can't change these bad behaviors immediately now, the club may also no need to stay any longer. Feng looked at Blair's angry face and said with some regret on his face, if that's the case, I accept Mr. Blair's decision. Blair was stunned again, not expecting that Feng would be so ungrateful. Okay, read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. He said 3 good words in a row. This is simply unreasonable. Kuchiki. Blair took out a termination contract from the desk cabinet, briefly modified it, and placed it on Feng's desk in front of. Feng raised his eyebrows, sat on the chair, and briefly looked at the contract. After there were no questions, he wrote down his name. 10 minutes later, the scrawled contract termination ceremony ended, and Feng walked out the door. There was a click sound, and Feng hung a cigarette to his lips, leaving behind a confused Blair. You Blair almost fainted from anger. 10 minutes later Su Feng left the administrative building, returned to the dormitory and began to pack his luggage. In the next time, I will continue to play football and strive to become a professional player, that is for sure. So first of all, you need to contact a new club for a trial training. During this period, Su Feng will definitely no longer be able to stay in the youth training dormitory of Mönchengladbach. So Su Feng needs to find a place to live first. After taking the luggage and walking out of the club door, Su Feng habitually threw the cigarette butt on the ground and stamped it out at the same time. A mechanical sound sounded in his mind. It is detected that the host has finished smoking a cigarette. Endurance plus 0.001. Yes, the reason why Su Feng dared to easily throw away the precious opportunity of the Mönchengladbach U17 youth training team and leave arrogantly is because he has the standard system for time travelers now in his eyes. All excellent clubs have different goals and do not work together. He believes that he has the ability to gain a foothold in any club and make his mark in his previous life. Su Feng was a huge football fan. He loves football and has always dreamed of playing on the green field. However, due to his limited talent, he can only sit in front of the TV and watch the national football team and sigh, or find face in FIFA 23. But now, God has given him this opportunity. 3 months ago, he time-traveled into the body of a U17 Chinese youth training youngster from Mönchengladbach in 2015, and successfully activated the chaos system. To put it simply, this system is a bit deceptive. It is not similar to FIFA 23, where you can improve your strength by adding points through training, but if you do something that violates the basic moral quality of professional players, the Zhao unrestrained system can obtain a reverse curse and improve all aspects of attributes. For example, professional players are not allowed to smoke, but smoking can improve their endurance. Professional players are not allowed to drink, but drinking can increase their explosive power. Professional players are not allowed to do disco dancing, but it can improve their coordination in jumping. Professional players are not allowed to play games, but he just knows that games can improve his technical skills, although the increase is not much at a time. And there is a numerical upper limit every day. Su Feng still persisted in working hard every day during the 3 months of time travel, successfully improved his abilities, and became a starter for Mönchengladbach U17. He also believes that one day in the future, he will become a world-class forward with perfect attributes in all aspects. This is the reason why Su Feng has been taking time out to show off in Mönchengladbach during this period. As for the fact that he runs less on the court, it is because the Chicago system requires Su Feng to play football gracefully on the court in order to obtain the corresponding rewards from the Chico value draw. Others have to train hard to improve their skills, but when it comes to Su Feng, his painting style becomes extremely strange. Su Feng really didn't want to do this, but can this make me stronger? It has always been Su Feng's dream to be a world-famous professional football player. What he wants is to ride on the green pitch and achieve the most dazzling achievements in football. And he set in his mind open the personal attributes panel. A panel tightly wrapped in white light, like in a game, appeared in Su Feng's mind. Chapter 002. Volley. Tryout Freiburg. Su Feng's current system data appeared in his mind. Name Su Feng, age 17 years old, height 186 m, shooting ability 71, long shot 73, volley 70, header 68, arc 75, penalty kick 68, technical ability 70, ball sense 74, dribbling 72, ball control 70, short pass 67, long pass 68, physical ability 68, strength 65, speed 71, coordination 70, reaction 75, physical fitness 59, comprehensive evaluation 69, current coolness value 25. The coolness value can be used to extract star skills. 20 coolness values are drawn once, 99 coolness values are drawn 5 times, and black star skills must be drawn. The star skills extracted from the chick value are, from high to low, in 3 levels: black, gold, and silver. Black star skills are almost all the famous stunts of world-class players. For example, Beckham's scimitar and Zidane's flying fairy. The method of obtaining cool points is even more outrageous. Su Feng needs to maintain the cool and unrestrained playing style of Berbatov during the game and perform excellently with very little running after each game. The system will rate his appearance on the field, and then obtain the corresponding coolness value based on the corresponding game level. The higher the competition level, the higher the coolness score, and naturally the more coolness points you get. After more than 3 months of Su Feng's continuous efforts, he had only accumulated 25 cool points. This could have been used to extract star skills. But Su Feng felt that he had successfully started the starting lineup from Mönchengladbach U17 and had a chance to enter the first team, so I haven't used it, and I am planning to accumulate it. 5 consecutive draws will definitely explode the Black Star skill, but now, he's going to a new team for a trial training. If he does not win the favor of the head coach because he runs less, it will be a loss. Therefore, Su Feng planned to draw a single draw today to try his luck. Use the chick value to perform a star skill draw, Su Feng said calmly. The winning star skill draw was successful. System rewards are being drawn. Host, please wait. A silver-white football outline flashed in Su Feng's mind. There are a few gold footballs mixed in with a very few black footballs. As the football flashed by slower and slower, a black football suddenly appeared in the middle of my mind. Congratulations to the host for successful extraction. Get the black star skill Robin van Persie volleys. Seeing the scene in his mind, Su Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. Unexpectedly, the first time I drew alone, a miracle happened, and it was Van Persie's volley. This star skill is of course very familiar to Su Feng. This is the famous stunt of Arsenal captain and number 10 striker Robin van Persie. As an artist on the court, Robin van Persie has left many wonderful goals in his career, which are extremely beautiful. Volleying has become Van Persie's exclusive skill to defeat the enemy, which is amazing. If he can acquire this ability, coupled with Su Feng's superior abilities, his dominance on the court will be even stronger. There is no doubt that this makes it certain that Su Feng will quickly find his next home. After reading the data, Su Feng endured the excitement in his heart. First, he used the money he saved to find a hotel near the club to stay temporarily. Then he began to use some of the relationships accumulated during this period to find his next club. Team. Previously, many teams expressed interest in Su Feng due to his excellent performance in Mönchengladbach U17. The first and strongest one to bear the brunt is Freiburg, also located in southern Germany. This is a club that just dropped from the Bundesliga to the Bundesliga 2 with second to last results in the 2014-2015 season. Although they have been in a sluggish state recently and ranked low in the Bundesliga in recent years, they still have a good chance of returning to the Bundesliga and competing in the Europa League. After a few phone calls, Su Feng successfully made an appointment with Freiburg for a trial training opportunity. This is not difficult for him, who has played professionally in Germany for more than half a year. After Su Feng settled in, he was not in a hurry to rest. Instead, he went to a local nightclub and conducted football training that was different from ordinary people. Stylish system, can provide 0.1 points bonus every day. He does not want to have his daily training affected by being expelled from Mönchengladbach U17. The afternoon 3 days later, the sunshine in Germany in June is bright, but not hot, and the weather is very comfortable. Su Feng carried his luggage to the Freiburg youth team training base, the U17 venue. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. He appeared here wearing a Mönchengladbach jersey and met Freiburg U17 head coach Dennis as he wished. Hello, Feng. I am Dennis, the head coach of Freiburg U17. The team's data analyst has noticed you before and mentioned it to me. I didn't expect you to be willing to come here for a trial training. Dennis walked over to Su Feng enthusiastically. In front of him, shake hands with him. It's a pity that I didn't see you when Freiburg played against Mönchengladbach last season. Otherwise I should have a deeper understanding of you, Dennis said truthfully. He really didn't. I have seen Su Feng play football with my own eyes. It turned out that I had only seen the data about Su Feng from the data analyst and some videos on the internet. Su Feng replied with a smile. It's okay, Mr. Dennis, you will see my performance today. Dennis nodded, pointed to the side, and said to Su Feng, okay, Feng, go to the court to change your shoes and prepare. Today, the team will have a team training match for you. After Su Feng nodded in reply, he walked to the court and started to change equipment. At this time, most of the players in the Freiburg U17 youth team also noticed this somewhat conspicuous figure. Yellow people, wearing our Mönchengladbach clothes? Is he from the youth training of Mönchengladbach? Can yellow people know how to play football? Don't say it. Kimchi country and Sakura. Among yellow people there are still some good players in our country. Suddenly, there was discussion among the Freiburg youth training players. They have certain doubts about this new player. It would be okay if they are from the two countries mentioned above, but if people from other countries join the team, it will affect the team's performance and become a hindrance in the game. At the same time, they are also afraid that he will break the collective balance and compete with them for the starting position. Whoever was pushed out of the starting lineup would feel uncomfortable. 10 minutes later, Su Feng followed Freiburg's neat pace and started the pre-match warm-up activities. During this period, He also felt a hostility towards him from most Freiburg players, but Feng didn't take this seriously at all. In football, only the strong will be respected. He felt that with his excellent skills, it was more than enough to defeat a group of 17-year-old brats. Soon, all the pre-match preparations were completed, and head coach Dennis came over with 22 team vests, began to assign the lineup for this trial match, and at the same time introduced Feng. This is a player from the Mönchengladbach youth training team who came to our Freiburg trial training. Feng is a Chinese. Our team's training match will be specifically for Feng. After Coach Dennis finished speaking, the expressions of the players on the sidelines suddenly changed. Can Chinese people play football? Even if they don't know much about China, they all know that China is a famous football desert in the world. In so many years, there has not been a famous player. It can be seen that how good are China's players. Dennis came to Feng. Looking at your information before, you played as the left forward in Mönchengladbach. Yes, okay, then this time you will be the left forward of the red team, and Balk will replace you in the yellow team. After saying that, Balk stood up from the original team, took the yellow jersey, and stood on the other side. He couldn't help but look at Feng a few more times. Freiburg's commonly used formation in the league is a 4-3-3 formation, which focuses on front court defense, long passes and strong defense in the middle. The offense mainly relies on three forwards and winger tactics. Balk serves as the team's left winger. Although he has broad vision and is good at running, his shooting skills are average and his passing skills are even worse, which is often the team's downfall. But because there is no winger in Freiburg's U17 who plays better than him, he has not been kicked out of the starting lineup. But Feng's arrival gave him a sense of danger. If this newcomer performs exceptionally well in the trial, he is likely to face the risk of being kicked out of the starting lineup. Thinking of this, Balk's eyes became colder at this moment. Why don't you give him some strength? Let him feel the special attention from Senior Freiburg. The subsequent distribution was extremely simple. Except for Feng, the other players in the red team were all the main starting members of Freiburg U17. The yellow team is naturally a substitute player, plus Balk, who is replaced from the starting lineup. The red team's formation uses are commonly used 433 formation, keeping the same strategy during the game, long passes and lobs, and playing winger tactics. The yellow team's formation is a 451 Christmas tree formation, because the overall strength is weaker. After a while, I will do a good job in defense and mainly play defensive counterattacks. Balk will serve as the only center in the team. A few minutes later, the entire lineup was determined. Head coach Dennis gave a few words and asked the players to go on the court and stand in formation. Ready for kickoff. Beep. After the double servers were ready, head coach Dennis blew the whistle for the first half of the game. The red team took the lead in firing the ball from the center circle and started the first round of offense. Chapter 003. Lazy movement, shocking pass. As the weaker side, the yellow team did not play timidly. Instead, they quickly followed up and launched a high-position press without any intention of giving in. But it can still be seen that there is still a certain gap in strength between the two sides in the tight passing rhythm of the red team. The ball has been firmly controlled by the red team. Even if the yellow team can get the ball before it passes through the midfield, the red team players will intercept the ball again and launch a new wave of offense. Feng has always been in the forward position, just to maintain the formation, perform some simple walks and runs, and wait for the football to be passed to his feet. After 2 months of continuous testing, Feng probably understood that in this kind of ordinary training match, even if he ran less, performed well, and received an S-level evaluation, he could only get one coolness value. However, Feng also knew the principle of adding up a little to make a big thing. Naturally, he will not give up every opportunity to get cool value, and in this case at 10 minutes, the red team's midfielder Alger originally discovered that there was an opening in Feng's position, but Feng's slow running made him afraid to pass the ball to him easily. How could he get an assist by passing the ball to such a lazy player? Then, Alger made a cross pass and passed the ball to Hardy, the left winger of the red team, but Hardy's position is not very good. There are two defenders from the yellow team in front of him. The center is also caught in the opponent's close defense and cannot easily receive the ball. On the contrary, only Feng can dribble the ball into the penalty area. Seeing that the attack was hopeless, Hardy had no choice but to pass the ball back to the red team defender again. Alger, pass the ball toward the open space. You don't have to keep passing it to me. If that kid is in a good position, you can try passing it to him. Hardy communicated patiently, but Alger curled his lips slightly when he heard the sound. Of course he knew this and wanted to pass it to Feng, but he didn't run at all. How do you want me to pass it on? "You run more and I can pass the ball to you." Alger could only shout helplessly in the direction of Feng, hoping that he would change on the sidelines. Coach Dennis, who was holding the whistle, also gradually frowned. He discovered something important. Why is this new player not running actively? Not to mention when he was on defense, even when his teammates were attacking, most of the time, he took a leisurely stroll as a forward. The importance of running is self-evident. Where will the opportunity come from without running for the ball just now? If he had started it earlier, midfielder Alger would have made a through pass, and he would have been able to take the ball directly into the penalty area and shoot. With this attitude, why come to trial training? Did he not want to come to Freiburg at all? Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. Dennis was puzzled, and unknowingly, his impression of Feng was a little different at this moment. The defender of the red team interrupted the yellow team's attack again and snatched the football back to his feet. Then, the football was once again passed to the feet of midfielder Alger. Seeing Team Wang's late defense, Feng was keenly aware of this opportunity. He quickly thrust forward and at the same time raised his hand and loudly asked for the ball here. Alger hesitated for a while and then kicked the ball to Feng. Nearly 20 minutes into the game, Feng finally touched the football and had his first opportunity to show off. He took the ball, quickly passed through the gap between the yellow team's defenders, and flew towards the goal with the ball. The defender responsible for defending him could only follow behind him, unable to catch up. Suddenly, Feng noticed a strong gust of wind coming from behind him, as if someone was chasing him. It's Balk. He has been waiting for a good opportunity for Feng to dribble the ball alone, so he can give this Chinese kid a boost. For this reason, when he saw Feng reaching out to ask for it just now, he did not hesitate to quickly cross the half-court to help his teammates catch up. Feng, who was aware of all this, raised the corners of his mouth slightly, pushed the ball slightly with his feet, and exploded with all his strength in an instant. Balk, who was only half a meter away from him, was suddenly pulled away by him by a meter. There was a hint of shock on Balk's face. His explosive speed is among the top among the youth teams, and he is the best among Freiburg. Otherwise, he would not be the starting winger, but now, he was following Feng and couldn't even touch his jersey. Damn it! Realizing that he could no longer catch up with Feng, Balk quickly signaled to the defenders on the side to come to cover up the defense. This was the benefit of playing 4 defenders, as they had 4 defenders to guard the penalty area. It was originally a defensive counterattack. The yellow team, with a vacancy in the backcourt, once again ran over and a teammate came to help defend Feng, making Hardy's position on the other side even more open. Feng naturally noticed this opportunity. Immediately he stopped the ball lightly at his feet, faced the oncoming defender, and gently moved the ball to the right. Then he followed up, tilted his body to the right, and kicked the left side of the football with the instep of his left foot. Bang! A clear and sweet sound of touching the ball sounded, and the football instantly lifted off the ground under the watchful eyes of everyone. The football drew a perfect arc in the sky from the left side of the court, and passed to the right winger Hardy without missing a beat. Hardy was shocked when he saw this perfect pass. It's so beautiful to pass on, but this was not the time to think about this. He immediately stopped the ball with his chest, quickly followed up with his body, and easily brought the ball into the penalty area. In front of him, there was only the lone goalkeeper of the yellow team, and he aimed at the upper left corner of the goal. Without hesitation, it was a shot. Bang! The football responded and flew up from his feet. Chapter 004. Guard against death? Sudden volley. Hey! With everyone's attention following, the football hit the dead center. The goalkeeper of the yellow team struggled to save to the right, but still failed to save the ball. In the end, the football flew into the goal. 1-0. The red team, which had been suppressing the yellow team, finally scored the first goal of the first half. Hardy, who had just scored a goal, ran over from the right field excitedly. The joy of successfully scoring was written on his face, and he hugged Feng excitedly. Your name is Feng, right? That pass just now was really great. I believe that with your wonderful pass, you will definitely pass the trial training and join our team. Feng patted him. Diesbach politely replied, thank you. Your shot just now was also wonderful. At the same time, on the sidelines, Freiburg coach Dennis, who was sitting in the coaching bench watching the game, touched his nose in disbelief. He couldn't believe that the high-quality arcing pass just now was made by this young Chinese player who came for trial training as a bystander. He watched the game from a third perspective, and naturally saw clearly Feng's foot movements just now. He stopped the ball, passed the ball, cut inside and passed the ball. It can be said that he did it flawlessly. It's so calm, but this was completely inconsistent with Feng's performance on the court just now. Dennis, I think we have found a treasure this time. The assistant coach looked at Su Feng in the crowd and couldn't help but said excitedly, we can't draw a conclusion so early, Dennis said with complicated eyes. Besides this good cross, did he have any outstanding performance on the court just now? Look at him on the court just now. It's a negative performance. Who knows if his kick was made in a critical situation? The assistant coach immediately retorted, but if you see him being so calm when celebrating, he is obviously very confident in his pass. Dennis shook his head. There's still some time before the end of the game. Let's see again. Although this goal made Dennis think less about Su Feng, he still maintained his own opinion and wanted to. Let's take a look at Su Feng's other amazing performances in the next game besides passing the ball. After speaking, Dennis turned his attention back to the field again and continued to watch the game on the court. At this moment, Balk, who had just suffered great humiliation, was looking angrily at the center back who was defending Su Feng in the yellow team. In his opinion, although he did not catch up with Su Feng, it was only because the central defender failed to restrain Su Feng in time that he made this extremely high-quality pass and made himself into the background plate. Bok, why are you staring at me? Am I entirely responsible for the goal scored by the opponent this time? The center back of the yellow team looked at Balk's unkind eyes and couldn't help but said. Balk responded sharply, isn't it? If I hadn't stepped up to defend in time, that kid would have done it alone. But you do your own thing well. You don't think you are better in defensive skills, am I? Okay, Balk snorted, not bothering to continue arguing with the yellow team center back, and turned around and ran towards the front court to prepare for the restart. I secretly made up my mind to make a comeback in the next game. The game quickly resumed after the center of the red team passed the ball to the right winger Hardy. He passed it to the midfielder Alger, and at the same time warned the kid from China has good skills. Give him more passes later so that he can perform better. Opportunity. On the other side, the yellow team, after Hardy's goal, did not destroy the wall in their hearts. Instead, it made them more motivated and launched an even more intense pressing and defense. Therefore, after several passes by the red team, they were unable to bring the ball into the front court, and the football could only be controlled at the feet of the red team's midfielder. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. When the game reached 40 minutes, the left back of the red team finally found a chance and passed the ball to Su Feng, who was far away in the hinterland of the yellow team. But a moment Su Feng received the ball, the yellow team member's mind instantly recalled the scene where the goal had just been scored. After being passed by several central defenders in a row, he also passed such high-quality passes. This time, they couldn't let Su Feng have the chance to bring the ball closer to the penalty area and make the same mistake again. First timing, the yellow team's left back immediately moved forward to guard Su Feng. He was very experienced and kept his center of gravity very low. He did not press forward, but just blocked Su Feng's breakthrough route behind him. There are two central defenders to cover up the defense. Even the yellow team's midfielder moved closer to prevent Su Feng from crossing again. Faced with such a marking, the yellow team members no longer felt so worried. No matter how good Su Feng's skills are, if you get past a fullback and pass the ball, it's already incredible. Does he still want to bring the ball over, pass them, and then go to the penalty area to shoot? That's simply impossible. The defense on the right was a little aggressive, allowing this kid to seize the opportunity to show off. If you guard the wing well, you will definitely be able to defend it to death. This is not a very threatening position, but just as we were thinking, Su Feng's movements had already begun. Faced with such a tight defense, he would naturally not dribble the ball forward to break through and show off his skills recklessly. Bang bang, only a few very coherent sounds were heard. Su Feng stepped on his bicycle and skillfully moved the football towards the middle. The fullback of the yellow team thought that Su Feng was going to cut in and break through, so he moved quickly in a panic, trying to keep up with his movements. But just when he shifted his center of gravity and his steps were unsteady, Su Feng stopped suddenly, passed the ball with his heel, and passed the ball steadily to the feet of the midfielder behind him. Then he quickly passed the fullback of the yellow team in front of him and inserted into the gap in the midfield. Here, Su Feng raised his right hand and asked for the ball again. After receiving the ball, the midfielder of the red team glanced at the field and saw Su Feng cutting into the midfield to get the ball. Alger beside him seemed to have a better long-range shot opportunity, but after all, this was the Chinese kid trial match. After thinking for a while, he decided to give Su Feng a chance and started immediately. Bang! A high ball was passed directly towards Su Feng's position. Su Feng looked up at the arc of the football and judged its landing point. He was fortunate that the midfielder was quite skilled with his feet, and the quality of this cross was quite good. No block his shooting route. A central defender of the yellow team saw Su Feng's idea of shooting and immediately called another central defender to come and defend together. He felt that as long as they were faster, they could block Su Feng's shooting route before he stopped the ball, but at this time, football had already arrived in front of Su Feng. No one expected that Su Feng had no intention of stopping the ball. He directly swung his left leg and leaned his body slightly to the right, letting the football fly directly in front of him. Bang! Su Feng's outer instep firmly hit the middle and lower part of the football, and a high-quality volley went directly towards the yellow team's goal. Chapter 005. Scored twice. Head coach's concerns. The football flew up, and everyone on the field stood on tiptoes, watching the flight route of the football with great anticipation. Even Dennis, the head coach on the bench, couldn't help but look over under everyone's expectant gaze. The football flew out from Su Feng's feet and headed straight for the goal with an unstoppable momentum. The ball was pressed very well. Thanks to Su Feng's superior ball feel, the football hit the goal with the most suitable height. Hey, before the goalkeeper of the yellow team could save the ball, the football hit the net. The ball went in. 2-0. Su Feng still didn't have much emotion. He just clenched his fist secretly and waved it a few times before turning around and running towards the midfield. The others were all stunned on the spot. The players on the red team even forgot about the goal celebration and couldn't believe what they just saw. As soon as this Chinese kid receives the football, he can rush forward with the ball and calmly bring the ball into the penalty area. Even in an emergency, he calmly passed the ball back and then volleyed the ball. So perverted, is this the performance a 17-year-old U17 youth training player should perform? Even if the forwards of the first team were to play, they wouldn't have this kind of performance, right? Moreover, there is a high probability that the technical level is not as good as Su Feng. Suddenly, the attitude of all the players on the field towards Su Feng changed. Good game, brother, it's great. Your skills are the best I've seen since my youth training. Have you been the main player at Mönchengladbach before? You're so good, I think you can go on loan. Some low-level leagues have been leveling up, and they are not at the same level as us. Many red team players came over, took the initiative to chat with Su Feng, and extended their. He raised his hands to high-five Su Feng to celebrate. They admire Su Feng from the bottom of their hearts, and they admire the strong in football. Even if this player is a little strange on the court, they are even a little confused, but this does not affect Su Feng's outstanding performance on the court. With 1 assist and 1 goal, Bach, the forward of the yellow team, stood there with a dissatisfied look on his face, waiting for the yellow team members to withdraw to their positions. Is it so difficult to hold your position? It doesn't matter if he is passed in the middle. Why can he break in from the wing? With so many people standing in front of the goal, can't they even block his shooting route? Are you there? At the beginning of the training match, Balk showed hostility towards the newcomer who came for the trial in order to increase his strength. He even chased and defended from the front court, but unfortunately he became a background for others at this moment. My team's defense line was completely destroyed by that kid alone, and my heart was full of humiliation and anger. Unable to vent his anger through other channels, he had no choice but to release his emotions on his teammates, and when he complained, all the members of the yellow team's defense exploded. You are mocking us for not being able to defend well. You come to play as a defender. I am not as fast as others. I was just a few meters ahead of others. Do you have the nerve to come and complain about us now? For a time, the teammates on the yellow team's back line started attacking Bach. Bach's face turned red soon after being told this. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. He gritted his teeth and turned around, focusing on Su Feng, feeling very angry. Fake, where did this kid come from? I hope that head coach Dennis will criticize his attitude towards playing football and not let him join the team. Bach began to pray in his heart. Next, the game starts again. The yellow team's defense, after witnessing several wonderful performances by Su Feng, also focused its defense on him. The two defenders stayed close to him and did not give him any chance to catch the ball. The rest of the players also tried their best to run on the court and defend every time as much as possible. On the contrary, the two players guarding Su Feng moved very little. Just like walking in the park. Beep. Beep. Soon, the time came to 45 minutes. And Coach Dennis blew the whistle to end the first half of the game. The players took a break and sat in a circle to rehydrate and stretch. After a 10-minute break, players from both sides took the field again to start the second half of the competition. Su Feng's personal technical ability advantage continued to be fully utilized on the field. He is very lazy, and if the team does not develop offense on the left, he will even stand still and look like he is detached from everyone on the field. But as soon as the football reaches him, he will jump up and down the field with great agility, looking like he is doing a samba dance on the field. In this case, The 80th minute of the game, Feng relied on his excellent personal technical ability and excellent dribbling skills to complete a Marseille's maneuver and successfully entered the penalty area again, tearing a hole in the yellow team's defense. Bang! Another shot that hit the blind spot. Feng once again hit the ball into the yellow team's net. Hey, the ball went in again. 3-0. Feng scored twice in this trial match. So beautiful. Feng, your skills are completely at the level of the first team. The members of the red team ran over to celebrate the goal with Feng. At this moment, they already felt that Feng had entered the Freiburg U17. It's already a done deal. It must be a joy to have such a great player join the team in the competition. With Feng's excellent personal ability, the team's performance can be improved a lot, and the attention of the entire team will also increase accordingly. In this case, they will be more likely to be selected by the first team. On the bench, head coach Dennis pursed his lips and nodded respectfully. He seemed to be impressed by Feng's skills, not to mention the assistant coach beside him. Feng in his eyes is like a dazzling new star in the future football world. This is simply unbelievable. This kid's strength is almost as good as entering Freiburg's first team to compete in the Bundesliga second division. Dennis, you have to sign him, otherwise I think you will regret it for the rest of your life. After listening to the words of the assistant coach, head coach Dennis began to hesitate in his heart. The performance of the Chinese boy just now really surprised him. However, there is never a shortage of talented rookies in football. Why should we give this boy opportunity to perform? Judging from his running on the field, his physical fitness is obviously too weak. He is about 1.85 meters tall and has a strong body. He will not be too bad in confrontation, but he cannot play professional games with poor physical fitness. Playing like this, there may be opportunities for him to perform in the youth training team, but in the first team, do you really want such a player? When defending, the team is completely as if there is one less person. There is no way to implement the coach's tactics and strategies. Chapter 006. Sign the contract and join Freiburg U17. Are you worried about his physical fitness? The assistant coach noticed the concerns of head coach Dennis. He patted Dennis on the shoulder and comforted Dennis. Have you forgotten what we are doing? We are coaches. Isn't it just to get rid of some bad habits in the players and instill modern football concepts and tactics into the players? I think this kid has Berbatov's talent. Why can't we strictly supervise him and let him train diligently, become the next Cristiano Ronaldo? After hearing these words, Dennis's eyes couldn't help but light up, and he began to dream about his future plans. Think about it, if we transform this kid into the next generation of rising stars, how famous the two of us will be in world football. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. After listening to the assistant coach's words, Dennis frowned on his forehead. The eyebrows stretched slightly. It seems to be true. This is indeed a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Dennis began to imagine future scenarios in his mind. In 2015, Chinese young player Feng encountered obstacles in Germany due to poor physical fitness after being sacked by Mönchengladbach. His career almost ended. However, he met a noble person in his life. His name was Dennis. The more he thought about it, the corners of Dennis' lips couldn't help but smile, which was a bit contrary to his usual normal state. Ahem, cough. Cough. Dennis stopped thinking about sweet dreams and his expression became serious again, but the seeds of his fantasy just now have been deeply buried in his mind and have taken root. He is determined to train this young Chinese player into an all-around genius. Soon, the 90 minutes were over. Beep. 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 Dennis blew the whistle to end the game on the playing field. Feng celebrated the victory of the game with the red team members and walked towards the bench at the same time. A mechanical sound sounded in his mind. Ding. Congratulations to the host for winning this competition. Running distance 3,845 meters. Rating S level. Reward coolness value 1. Current coolness value 6. As Feng expected, in this training match, he received an S level rating from the system, but only gained a bit of chick value. He scored 2 goals and 1 assist. It should be favored by Freiburg U17 head coach Dennis. Entering the youth team is just a small goal for him. He won't stop there. His ultimate goal is to use this springboard to get the first team coach's attention as soon as possible, and then join the first team. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. The German Football League 2 is a very good place to start a career. He believes he can appear there soon, become a true professional player and fulfill your dream in your previous life. At 4 o'clock that afternoon after the game, Feng took a shower in the team's bathroom, wiped himself clean, and then went to the U17 coach's office. In the match just now, Feng faced the yellow team composed of substitute players on the court and showed complete dominance. 2 goals and 1 assist. This is definitely an amazing performance for a trial player who is not familiar with the team. So after the game, head coach Dennis asked Su Feng to come to the coach's office to talk to him about signing a contract. Su Feng himself was not too surprised by this result after all. With his rating of close to 70, it is more than enough to defeat a group of 17-year-old kids in the youth training team. The next step is to stand out on the youth training team and strive to get the attention of Freiburg's first-team coach as soon as possible. Promote him to the first team and compete in the real German second division. Not long after, Su Feng arrived at the door of U17's office, opened the door and walked in. What caught his eye was the blonde assistant coach who was standing on the sidelines just now. Head coach Dennis is sitting in the office chair in the back. "Hello, Mr. Su Feng. I am the team's assistant coach Steven." Assistant coach Steven walked up, smiled and stretched out his right hand to shake Su Feng's hand, and then took him to sit at the desk forward. Head coach Dennis nodded, shook hands with Su Feng in a gentlemanly manner, then spread his hands and said, "Feng, I watched the game just now. Your performance was very exciting. Freiburg U17 is happy to provide you with a youth training contract. I wonder if you intend to sign it now." Steven was afraid that Su Feng would still have it. Concerned, he stood by and explained, "By joining us, you will not only have the opportunity to train in the youth team league at least once a week, but also have the opportunity to be valued by the head coach of the first team and play in the Bundesliga second division. I believe you are right. I have a very high love for football and I will definitely not miss this opportunity." After hearing these words, Su Feng felt that the assistant coach understood his thoughts very well, or in other words, he understood every player who aspires to become a professional player thought joining a team, becoming a professional player, and sweating on the green field, isn't that what he wants? Su Feng nodded and replied with a smile, "Okay, I'm happy to. Let's take a look at the specific contents of the contract." "Okay." Dennis happily took out a copy of the contract that he had already prepared. A good contract was placed in front of Su Feng. This contract is not a professional contract, but a contract according to the regulations of the German Football League. The contract signed by young players participating in youth training with the club is usually not a professional contract, but a signing contract. The club will only provide the player with a professional contract when he reaches the age of 18 or enters the first team. Although it is just a contract, the content of the contract is no different from a professional contract, considering that your performance just now was indeed excellent. The club is willing to provide you with a weekly salary of €300, Dennis said, holding out a number with his finger. This is only your first contract, it already counts. There is a good salary. Of course, this is also considered when you serve as the main starter at Mönchengladbach. Yes, Su Feng nodded and agreed, and did not dwell too much on this issue. The weekly salary of €300 is enough for his daily expenses, and he firmly believes that with his own strength, he can perform well in Freiburg U17 and get a higher salary. Some other matters must be similar to what you did at Mönchengladbach. Basically there are no problems. Dennis' face became a little heavy as he talked about this topic. But there are some things I still want to say up front. It is a 2-year contract with a liquidated damages of €1 million. If you cannot compete for a place in the first team within 2 years, you will leave Freiburg. Can you accept this liquidated damages? Chapter 007. Meeting Alger, the first meal in Freiburg. No problem, Su Feng nodded. €1 million in liquidated damages is not a lot as for the 2-year contract period. He is also considering it. He feels that in less than 2 years, he will have the opportunity to join the first team and compete in the Bundesliga second division. Great. Feng, if there are no problems, then sign the contract now. Assistant coach Steven handed a pen to Su Feng with excitement on his face. Thank you. Su Feng took the pen and briefly glanced at the contents of the contract. After confirming that there were no problems, he signed his name on the contract. Head coach, I wonder if the club can advance my salary for a week in advance? I don't have much money left in Mönchengladbach. Su Feng touched his head and said with some embarrassment the money he saved back then has been squandered in nightclubs in the past few days. In order to ensure that he could still go to nightclubs for special training during the next period of time, he had to ask the club to pay a salary in advance. Dennis nodded and replied without hesitation, no problem. Steven, take Feng to the finance department to collect 1 week's salary, then send him to the player's dormitory, and then familiarize him with the club's environment. Okay, Steven agreed happily. He always has an inexhaustible passion for outstanding players. Feng, happy cooperation. I believe you will definitely feel that joining Freiburg is a good choice in the future. Okay, Mr. Dennis, happy cooperation. Su Feng took the initiative to extend his hand and shake hands with the two coaches. This simple signing ceremony ended like this. After that, Steven took Su Feng to the finance department of the training building to receive a salary of €300, and then took him to the players' dormitory as an old German club. Freiburg's U17 youth training branch is built in the south of Freiburg. The training venue has 2 standard football fields and other small training venues for player training. Taking Su Feng to the southernmost football field, Steven pointed and introduced Feng. This is the team's daily training venue. The players need to gather at 8 o'clock every morning to start training. This building behind, this is the players' dormitory. Captain Alger still lives alone for the time being, so you can live with him first. Su Feng nodded and agreed. Assigning him to Captain Alger must be the arrangement of head coach Dennis. In this way, Su Feng and Captain Alger can quickly get to know each other and become familiar with the entire team. Moreover, Captain Alger plays the right midfielder position in the team and cooperates more closely with the forwards on the field. This move can be said to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Steven led the way and finally stopped outside the door of 203. On the 2nd floor he knocked on the door, and after a while, Alger opened the door from the inside. Coach Steven, what's the matter, Alger? There's still an empty spot in your room. The coach has decided to let you live with Feng. Is there any problem? I heard that Yao can live with Su Feng. Alger's face immediately filled with an excited smile. Su Feng's performance in the training match today shocked everyone. The team members all believe that Su Feng will be the new starting force of Freiburg U17 in the future. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels, and Alger himself is a warm and hospitable Nordic. Of course, he also feels that being able to live with such a team's main player and establish a good relationship will be very beneficial to his future development. Of course, there is no problem. I can't be happy enough to be able to live with the powerful team members here, Alger said from the bottom of his heart, and at the same time stretched out his right hand and shook hands with Su Feng warmly. Steven smiled and said, well, I'll leave the new players to you. After Alger agreed, Steven said goodbye to the 2 of them and left. As the assistant coach with the greatest say in the team, he was left to handle it. There are many more things. Alger enthusiastically took the luggage from Su Feng, went in to help him pack it up, and also told him some of the team's unique rules. By the time the cleaning was over, it was already 6 o'clock in the evening. Alger rushed to help Su Feng organize everything, and even sweated more than Su Feng. He handed Su Feng a tissue and said with a smile, Feng, you just came to the team today. As the captain of the team, I feel it is my obligation to treat you to a meal and let you experience Freiburg food. Generally, there is no dedicated assistant coach responsible for the diet of youth training players, so the players are relatively free to eat. If they don't want to eat in the club cafeteria, it is not strange to go out to eat. Su Feng had just arrived and was not familiar with the environment around the club. He didn't even know where the nearby nightclub was. Therefore, he felt that it was very necessary to have a meal with Alger and get to know the surrounding environment. Okay, Captain, Su Feng nodded in agreement. Afterwards, the 2 simply packed up and walked out of the room. Alger was like a talkative person who couldn't stop talking. He spoke again as soon as he left the room. Feng, Hardy is my best friend in the team. Let's invite him to this dinner party. I believe that you and him will definitely become the most powerful Freiburg U17 in the future. The striker, Su Feng nodded and agreed. It was also necessary to get to know the main players in the team. Seeing that Su Feng agreed, Alger knocked on the door to room 202 next door. Hardy is also living in a room alone for the time being, which is considered as some special care given by the club to the main players of the team. At this moment, Hardy had just finished taking a shower in the dormitory, wiped himself and opened the door. Hey brother, what's the matter? Alger asked doubtfully. Alger smiled and replied, no, I just want to ask you to go out for a dinner together. A trace of hesitation appeared on Hardy's face. After thinking for a while, he declined. I have to go to the court to train in the evening. Next time weekly's game is very important to the club, but I haven't been able to play well at set pieces, so I can't hold the team back. In the team, Hardy is famous for his diligence. Every day after dinner, he would go to the court to train himself. After the training match just now, the team had announced an early break, but he still trained alone on the court for more than an hour before returning to the dormitory to take a shower. Alger walked into the room, put his arm around his shoulders, pointed at Su Feng outside the door and said, Feng just joined the team today. I'm going to take him to try the food in Freiburg. You don't need to train today. Come with me. When he heard that Su Feng was being invited to dinner, Hardy's eyes changed and he began to think a player as talented as Su Feng has a bright future. It would definitely be great to have a good relationship with him during the youth training period. For this reason, it doesn't seem to matter much if I delay another day of training. After making the decision, Hardy lightly punched Alger's chest with his fist and said, "Okay, wait for me. I'll go in and change clothes and come out." If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 008. Nightclub Training. The late newcomer to the team. After Hardy changed his clothes, he followed Alger and Su Feng out of Freiburg Club's youth training base. The Freiburg youth training base is located in the southern suburbs of Freiburg. There is a bustling commercial street not far to the north. As a native of Germany, Alger joined the Freiburg youth training very early and is very familiar with the surrounding environment. On his recommendation, the three of them came to a sauerkraut and pig's trotter's shop in the commercial street with local German characteristics over a meal. These three U17 future main players successfully got together and began to call themselves brothers. After finishing the meal, Alger took the lead to settle the bill, then left the store and took a taxi, preparing to go directly back to the club. Sitting in the back row, Su Feng saw Alger's attitude and wanted to go back to the club directly. He finally arrived at the commercial street. How can I go back without completing special training? Thinking of this, Su Feng touched his head and asked slightly, "Captain, are we going back directly?" Alger, who was sitting in the passenger seat and insisted on paying the fare, turned to Su Feng and replied, "Yes." "Ah, Feng, do you have anything else you need to do? Tell us now, and we will help you do it in a moment. I thought there would be no game tomorrow, so why not go to a nightclub in this commercial street to have fun?" Su Feng said. Hearing Su Feng's words, Alger and Hardy both looked over in surprise. Professional players are not allowed to go to nightclubs. In nightclubs, there are usually many temptations and risks, which can make players indulge in them and neglect training, which has a great impact on the players' careers. At this moment, they seemed to understand why Su Feng's physical fitness was so poor. His body was completely drained by alcohol and sex. "Feng, going to nightclubs will have a great impact on your future career path. Why don't you stop going?" Hardy, who was sitting next to Su Feng, also said with a worried look. He admired Su Feng as a brother from the bottom of his heart, so he didn't want to see him fall like this. "Don't worry, I won't spend the night in the nightclub. I will just come back later. I will definitely be there for tomorrow's training." Su Feng heard that the two strictly abide by the professional ethics of players and would not go to nightclubs easily. He didn't even think about forcing the two of them to go with him. After all, he can improve his football skills by going to nightclubs and drinking. The two of them still have to sweat on the green field and train constantly. Then, Su Feng stopped the driver and got out of the car. Bang! As soon as the car door was closed, Su Feng lit a cigarette for himself out of habit and waved goodbye to the two people in the car, actually still smoking. Hardy's eyes were filled with shock when he saw Su Feng smoking a cigarette. The taxi then started moving. Alger also shook his head and said to Hardy, "These habits of Feng will have a great impact on his future career. We must find an opportunity in the future to let Feng get rid of these bad habits." "That's right. In this case, when will his physical fitness reach the standard? We can't watch our brother fall like this," Hardy said with firm eyes, already starting to make plans in his mind. He didn't want Su Feng, a player with excellent football talent, to fall from grace. After getting off the bus, Su Feng didn't walk far in the commercial street when he discovered a nightclub. Standing at the door of the nightclub were several European beauties with blonde hair and blue eyes. Their long blonde hair covered their foreheads, as if they were enveloped in the western sunset. Su Feng walked into the nightclub. This nightclub has a great atmosphere. The mixed air was filled with the smell of tobacco and alcohol, and the music was turned up to the maximum, almost deafening people's ears. The gorgeous lights illuminated the goblet filled with Lafite, and the ambiguous tones between the glasses eroded the hearts of the anesthetized people. Su Feng chose a corner to sit down in the nightclub and asked the waiter to order a glass of cold beer. He didn't really like drinking at first, but now, with the support of the system, he has slowly fallen in love with the feeling of the colorful liquid sinking slowly. Read more novels by visiting our website. Night Novels detected that the host had finished drinking 200 milliliters of beer, burst plus 0.002. The crisp mechanical sound in his mind ended, and Su Feng's face was filled with a satisfied smile. This kind of training is so cool. Immediately afterwards, Su Feng opened another bottle of cold beer on the table and began to train. At the same time, on the green field of the Freiburg U17 training base, Hardy, who had returned to the club, was training alone. take a free kick, repeatedly kicking the ball, picking up the ball, swinging the ball. The next day at 6 o'clock in the morning, the sky was clear and clear in Freiburg. A ray of sunshine shines on the green field, complementing Hardy's jogging. Head coach Dennis and assistant coach Stephen both have the habit of getting up early after the two had breakfast in the club cafeteria. They arrived at the training ground early and waited for the players to arrive. Of course, every time the two came to the club in the morning, they could see Hardy practicing extra time on the green field. This is why Dennis admires him so much. Only this time, the topic between the two was not about Hardy, but Feng, who had just joined the team yesterday. Stephen, you took Feng to do a comprehensive physical examination this morning. If I guess correctly, this kid must be in poor physical condition, which is why he doesn't actively move on the field. If that's the case, in the future, we will have to shift the focus of his training slightly. At 7:30, Dennis was already standing on the sidelines of the green field, discussing with assistant coach Stephen what needed to be done today. Stephen nodded and replied, "Okay, Mr. Dennis, I think so too. As long as he can exercise his physical fitness, he will be the sharpest blade on Freiburg's front line." Dennis listened to Stephen. If so, he calmly lit a cigarette for himself, and at the same time turned his head to look at the entrance of the green field, hoping to find Feng among the players entering the stadium. However, when most of the players have already arrived, it's already 7:50, assistant coach Stephen still didn't see Feng in the crowd. He couldn't help but feel a little confused and walked to Alger's side and asked, "Alger, why hasn't Feng come yet? Doesn't he know about the 8 o'clock training?" Alger touched his head in embarrassment. When he went out to have breakfast just now, he called Feng. Seeing Feng respond to him, he left the dormitory. But now, why didn't Feng come to the training ground? Are you still eating? Seeing this, Alger quickly explained, Feng got up to eat in the canteen when I left. Maybe he is not familiar with the layout of the canteen, so he is still eating. Dennis pinched off the cigarette in his hand and walked to Dennis' side. Also heard Alger's explanation, but is this explanation the reason for being late for training? Dennis wasn't buying that cheap excuse then. He frowned and said to Alger with a slightly angry tone, "Didn't you familiarize yourself with the club yesterday? You were late for training on the first day. Is this the attitude a new member of the team should have? Even if he doesn't eat breakfast, he should stand on time for me." Get on the green field. Assistant coach Stephen still admired Feng as a talented player. He felt that Feng might be late because he was not familiar with the club yet, so he patted Dennis on the shoulder and said with a smile, "Man, don't get so angry so early in the morning." After saying that, he turned to Alger and ordered, "Alger, let's wait for the wind. You can take the team to jog 5 laps on the court to warm up." Chapter 009. Arrogance and a bet with a head coach. "Okay coach." After Alger agreed, he turned back to the team and started jogging with the team members. "Men, why are you so serious? After all, it's just his first day joining the team, so it's understandable that something special happens suddenly. There's no need to get so angry, right?" Stephen couldn't help laughing. Joking, Dennis shook his head, sighed, and replied, "On the first day you join the team, should it leave a good impression on me? This is completely disrespectful of me, the head coach." Today, he was still thinking of conducting a physical test on Feng, and then prescribing the right medicine to train him into an all-around forward in the future. He will be sent to the Freiburg first team and serve as the team's main force, but if he has this kind of professional attitude, he may not be given playing time in the German U17 championship next week. Stephen, who was standing nearby, quickly comforted head coach Dennis. He didn't want the team to lose a promising player because of this. The two of them stood on the green field chatting for more than an hour. The other team members had already started their daily training, but Feng was still nowhere to be seen. Dennis could no longer suppress the anger in his chest and pointed at the players' dormitory and said sternly, "Stephen, what's the situation with the wind? You ask other assistant coaches to bring him to me now. I want to know what he is today. What have you been doing without training all morning?" Just when Dennis was getting angry, Stephen finally saw a black-haired boy wearing a Freiburg jersey at the entrance to the green field. "Man, there's no need to send anyone. The wind seems to be coming." Dennis followed his gaze and spotted Feng's figure on the green field. "When the wind comes, control your temper and don't let the players think that you, the head coach, have a weird temper." Stephen, who has been Dennis's deputy for 5 or 6 years, is very familiar with his temper and hurriedly reminded him. Looking at him, Dennis snorted coldly, said nothing, and slowly watched Feng walking across the green field. Seeing Feng's calm attitude, Dennis couldn't help complaining he didn't even want to run a few steps late. A minute later, Feng finally came to the two coaches, but at the same time, There was a breeze mixed with a strong smell of alcohol. Feng said with a slight apology on his face. Sorry, coach. I overslept on the first day of training. Originally, under Steven's persuasion, Dennis, who had suppressed his anger, finally couldn't help but explode after smelling the smell of alcohol on Feng's body. Feng, you're late for training on the first day? What kind of professional attitude do you have? Dennis said, showing the watch on his hand and pointing the time on the hands at him. Do you know what time it is now? 9 o'clock. Other team members have been training for more than an hour, and you just arrived? Dennis took his eyes back from his watch and turned to Feng's face, which had just woken up from drunkenness. Besides, as a professional player, don't you know that players can't drink alcohol? Dennis scolded him coldly, with a full sense of oppression. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. Even Alger, the oldest captain in the youth training team, would be extremely nervous when faced with him in this state. Feng smiled softly. Coach, first of all, I drank last night in private time. According to the provisions of the contract, it does not constitute a breach of contract, so at most, I am just late for daily training. Now it was Dennis' turn to be confused. What kind of player can tell the head coach that he's just late for daily training? Seeing that the anger on Dennis's face remained unabated, Feng changed the subject and continued, besides, the reason I drank last night was to celebrate my success in joining Freiburg's excellent team. I believe Mr. Dennis will not be angry because of this matter. After hearing this, Steven just breathed a sigh of relief. If Feng also had a bad temper and started to compete with the angry Dennis, he wouldn't be able to hold him back. After Dennis stared at Feng's eyes for a few seconds, he seemed to be angry and laughed. Boy, why do you, a new member of the team, dare to think so? Aren't you afraid of yourself? You have no chance to play. Feng continued in superb German. I believe you will not do such a stupid thing. Yacht now, I am very good at scoring goals. Dennis regained his angry face. Do you think the U17 tournament is as simple as a training match? That is a real battlefield. If you have a more serious training attitude and a regular private life, I can indeed consider putting you in the starting lineup and get stable playing time. But your performance today makes me so disappointed. Feng smiled lightly. What about Dennis himself? You obviously want to join the team to change the status quo, but you still negotiate terms with yourself. How about we make a bet that I will score a goal next time I play? Dennis sneered, spread his hands and frowned. What a loud tone. Even Messi and Ronaldo can't guarantee that they will score in every game. Dennis narrowed his eyes and couldn't help laughing. Okay, I'll bet you, if you can guarantee a goal. I'll treat being late for training today as if it never happened. If you don't do it, get rid of all your bad habits. Otherwise, just leave the team on your own. Feng nodded and left gracefully. He walked over to Alger's side and joined the team's daily training. Dennis was left looking confused. Man, don't be too impetuous. A boy of this age just doesn't agree with anyone. It will be fine after a few seasons of training. I believe he will be the main force of Freiburg's first team in the future. Seeing the end of the quarrel between the two, Steven quickly maintained the relationship between the two beside Dennis, trying not to let the team lose such a talented player. Dennis shook his head, smiled disdainfully at Steven, and said, he doesn't even pay attention to how much playing time he has. Do you really think he can score goals just by playing? Chapter 010. Physical Training. Actor Feng. The contracts signed by youth training players do not include playing time. In other words, when Feng plays and how much time he plays is decided by head coach Dennis alone. When the team takes a big lead, Feng is replaced in the last few minutes. Does this count as an appearance? Even if Feng couldn't even touch the ball, he still played. Dennis dared to make this bet with Feng because he had already thought of a countermeasure. He wanted to use this opportunity to suppress Feng's sharp edge, polish him into a player that satisfies him. Seeing Feng return to the team, Alger immediately came to Feng and did simple passing exercises with him. Feng, didn't you get up when I left? Why are you here now? Hearing Alger's concern made Feng feel from the bottom of his heart that he was a brother worthy of close friendship. He smiled slightly and replied to Alger, I accidentally fell asleep again. Alger sighed and said with relief, fortunately, this is just your first time. The head coach probably won't cling to this matter, for your sake in the future. If you can start the game, don't be late for training again. Feng nodded, and at the same time he accidentally passed a ball and ran over to pick it up when Bach, who was training on the left side of the two of them, heard these words. He couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. He thought that Feng, who was so powerful, Must be a self-discipline maniac like Hardy, but his current performance made his original worries disappear. What's the use of being talented if you don't even bother to participate in daily training? I'm not bad at talent either. If I work hard, I can definitely stay in the starting lineup. Thinking about it, the training at Box's feet accelerated a bit. After the morning training, the team members went to the club cafeteria to eat together. Steven sat next to Feng, and after he finished eating, he took him for a comprehensive physical test. After the test, Feng returned to the team and conducted special training for each position. In the afternoon, Steven took Feng's test report and found the head coach Dennis in the courtside lounge. "Dennis, I'm really confused about this." Steven sat in front of Dennis and said with a surprised look on his face, "That kid was different from what we both guessed. His physical fitness test was not very bad, with a score of about 75. As he spoke, Steven handed the test report in Dennis's hand. "A healthy professional football player with a physical fitness of 70% can easily run 10,000 meters on the field." Dennis took the report and read it, but the more he looked, the more ugly his expression became, as if he had seen a ghost. After browsing the report, Dennis placed the report on the table, took out a cigarette and lit one. After slowly exhaling a puff of smoke, he said to Steven with a shocked look on his face, "What the hell? This kid is so physically capable. Why is he not active on the field and afraid of running?" Steven touched his head, as if don't want to express your guess. "I think the only thing that makes sense is that he is a little lazy." After hearing Steven's words, Dennis stopped smoking and inserted it into the ashtray. "Are you lazy? Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels, then I'll let him exercise more." After Dennis finished speaking, he stood up and walked out of the lounge. 4:30 p.m. The Freiburg U17 youth training team stopped training uncharacteristically. All members followed the head coach and sat cross-legged on the sidelines of the green field, staring at a black-haired boy on the track who was undergoing physical training. "Boss, this is the 22nd lap of Feng. Why don't you let him stop and take a rest?" Hardy said worriedly next to Dennis. But Dennis, on the other hand, had a dark face and couldn't say a word. The other Freiburg U17 players around them couldn't help but sigh when they saw Feng running and looking completely different from each other on the field. "Oh my god, I never thought that this is Feng's true level. I thought he didn't actively run on the field because of his lack of physical fitness, but now it seems that his physical fitness is even better than mine. But why is Feng unwilling to run on the field? If Feng runs like this on the field, coupled with his excellent skills, he can definitely serve as the main player in Freiburg's first team." Dennis watched for a while, and when he saw that Feng was not exhausted, he couldn't help shouting, "I never thought you had such good physical fitness, but why do you perform so well on the field? Bad, you obviously have excellent physical fitness, but your running data is not as good as that of U12 youth training kids. I really don't know where to put your face." Steven pushed Dennis' arm aside, meaning to ask him not to speak so harshly. "As you can see, Feng's physical fitness is very good. Instead of letting him do physical training here, we should discuss how to communicate with him so that he can keep up with him and run actively on the field." Dennis stood up. "Some people who hate iron and steel complain, why doesn't he use such good physical ability? Does he really want to become the next Berbatov? Human desires are always insatiable. When you have a half-finished Messi, you will definitely still want to make him the real Messi, or even make him the Messi at his peak, just like Feng in the team." In this afternoon's training, he performed very well in all aspects, completely surpassing the rest of the team, and fully meeting the level of Freiburg's first team. But he just doesn't run actively on the field, still in very good physical condition. Did this make the head coach bear it? At this moment, Dennis felt as if there were tens of thousands of ants crawling in his heart. And he was actually thinking about how to change Feng and make him a top football player. "We have to take our time on how to communicate. Let's let Feng's physical training start here today," Steven said helplessly. "As you can see, Feng is not a physical problem." He also said not sure, he just didn't want to run in the training match. Dennis nodded, turned around and walked out of the green field with some frustration. "Alger, today's training is over. Let's take the team members to rest." Steven gave a simple instruction and quickly followed. 8 p.m. After Dennis and Steven finished eating together, they decided to come to the dormitory to find Feng and talk about why he didn't run on the field while eating. They also studied videos of Feng's previous games with Mönchengladbach U17. It was discovered that Feng's strength on the field gradually improved by leaps and bounds. At the same time, the running distance on the field is gradually shortened in the end. There was not even 4,000 meters. Thinking of this, Dennis couldn't help but complain to Steven next to him, "Do you think the wind is playing us?" Chapter 011. On the bench? A head coach who rides a roller coaster. Steven's face showed a hint of speechlessness. He rolled his eyes at Dennis and said, "He must have joined our team to play football. What's the use of playing us? Are you going to sit on the bench?" Dennis nodded and did not reply. He thinks there is nothing wrong with what Steven said. Which professional football player is willing to sit on the bench and be kept on the bench by the coach? So the reason why Feng didn't actively run on the field must be because of his attitude. You must have a good communication with him. After a while, a few minutes later, the two arrived at the door of player dormitory 203. Seeing that the door was open, Dennis opened the door and walked in, but what hit him was a thick cloud of smoke, which made him unable to open his eyes. Why do people still smoke? Dennis was stunned on the spot. As an old smoker, he was very familiar with this smoke. He could even smell it as Marlboro Black Label. It's his favorite brand of cigarettes. But as the smoke dissipated, Feng, with his upper body exposed, was standing there puffing away a cigarette with a cigarette in his hand. "Head coach, why are you here?" Alger, who was resting in bed, immediately jumped up from the bed and walked toward the door. When he saw Dennis coming, Dennis ignored Alger. He narrowed his eyes, stared hard at Feng, and asked sternly, "Are you still smoking?" Feng saw that Dennis had caught him and didn't try to hide it. He nodded and replied, "Yeah, don't you know how harmful smoking is to professional players?" Feng's words made him angry. "You are letting down your future career." Feng shook his head. "I don't think so. My physical fitness is very good. Smoking will not have much impact on me." After hearing this, Dennis felt that Feng was a bit stubborn and ineffective. He wanted to use data to change Feng's mind. "It's not affected yet. Look for yourself. Don't you think your running data on the field is very poor?" At this point, Steven, who was standing behind him, quickly poked his back with his finger. Back, indicating that he said the wrong thing. Feng's physical fitness is not very bad. Perhaps understanding what Steven meant, Dennis paused for a few seconds, took a breath and then continued, "Then why don't you run actively on the field? I checked your data at Mönchengladbach today and found that your running distance in almost every game was less than 4,000 meters. You should know, as a professional player, how bad is this data? Modern football has a faster pace and has higher requirements for every player on the field. As a forward in the team who needs to run and break through frequently, it is inevitable to average 10,000 meters per game, but Feng was only less than 4,000 meters away. This may have something to do with my playing style." Feng thought for a moment and took another puff of cigarette calmly. "I like the way Berbatov plays and even want to be the second him. That's why my running distance on the court is so short." Dennis looked angry. It's just like a student telling his teacher that he wants to go to vocational technical school. The teacher doesn't want his students to get into a good university and become a white-collar worker in a big company in the future. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. As for Dennis, he also wants Feng to become a world-class forward like Messi, Ronaldo, and Ibrahimovic. Although Berbatov is also one of the best forwards in football history, but how can others easily learn the way he plays? Steven on the side saw that Dennis was so angry that he was speechless, so he quickly stood up to persuade him. "Feng, I know that your skills at your feet are very good, but the concept of modern football emphasizes teamwork. You need to actively run on the court to create more opportunities. Berbatov is a great player, a world-class striker. You can learn from his football skills. But there is no need to follow the way he plays." When Dennis heard Steven's words, the anger in his heart calmed down a little. He also didn't want to waste a great talent with a great talent. Feng, who has the ability to be the starting forward of the first team at the age of 17, is indeed a good choice for the team. Thinking of this, his tense face relaxed slightly. "Huh?" Dennis exhaled with a thick breath and couldn't help but continue. "Yes, you have to actively run and integrate into the team so that you can implement the plans and tactics formulated by our coaching staff." Feng shook his head and said firmly, "I have my own ideas, Mr. Dennis. Don't forget our bet. I believe I will perform well on the court." These words ignited Dennis, who had just calmed down his anger. His mood at the moment was like riding a roller coaster, with ups and downs. "I originally wanted to communicate with Feng, let him run actively on the field, and include him in the starting lineup, but now there is no need at all." "Okay." Dennis gritted his teeth and breathed heavily. "I look forward to your performance on the field." After saying this, he turned and walked out of the door. Steven smiled awkwardly. Why did things become like this again? Didn't you just tell Dennis that you should communicate well with Feng? Why did he rush out of the door before finishing a few words? He shook his head helplessly and turned around and left the dormitory. Alger was left with a confused look on his face, and asked Feng weakly, "Feng, what's the bet between you and Mr. Dennis?" 3 days later on Saturday morning, the players were doing their daily training on the green field as usual under Alger's supervision and reminder. Feng was not late for training in the past few days. Steven came to the lounge on the sidelines, preparing to discuss the starting lineup for the afternoon league with head coach Dennis. After a brief exchange, the two of them had relatively unified opinions, and the only focus was still on Feng. As for Feng's attitude, "Let's take our time to communicate with him," Steven asked Dennis with a puzzled face, holding the youth team report in his hand. "In this afternoon's game against Hamburg U17, if nothing unexpected happens, Feng will definitely play. He has to feel the intensity of the German youth team's game. You won't let him start at all because of the bet. Or only replace him in the last few minutes, that's for sure." Dennis originally wanted to say that he would only play in the last few minutes, but after thinking about the strength of Hamburg U17 and the indicators the club gave him this year, he stopped talking immediately. There is indeed something wrong with Feng's attitude whether on or off the field. His attitude is not consistent with that of a qualified professional football player, but despite this, his role on the court cannot be denied. Scoring efficiency, organizational ability, tactical understanding, shooting ability, etc. are all ranked high on the team. These will be of great help to the team, increase the team's core combat effectiveness, and allow the team to compete with Hamburg U17. Dennis was now a little afraid that he would lose the bet, because he had a hunch that with Feng's strength, he would definitely score at least one goal in this game, and this premonition is very strong. Slowly exhaling a breath, Dennis shook his head and said, "Don't worry, men, I will not ignore the team's results for personal reasons. Although Feng will not start this afternoon's game, I will let him come as a substitute." Appeared. Chapter 012. The first game against Hamburg, the home team is lagging behind, the next day. This day is a Saturday, and some fans are pouring into the originally deserted Freiburg youth training base. There is only one team in the city of Freiburg, and people living here naturally regard Freiburg club as their home team since tomorrow is the match day for Freiburg's first team. Taking the time to come to the youth training base to watch the youth team's game is a good pastime for these adult football watchers. Moreover, there are no tickets for youth team games. Each club actively encourages its fans to cheer for the youth team players and support the development of their own youth training under the sea of red and black at the youth training base. Players with two servings gradually appeared on the green pitch. The ones wearing black and red are naturally the players of Freiburg U17 at home, and the ones wearing blue jerseys are Hamburg U17. They put on their equipment and started warming up on the green field. "Feng, I have something to inform you." Feng was concentrating on doing simple ball bumping training on the green field, when Steven, the assistant coach of Freiburg U17, came over. "Although your training results are very good, you will not be allowed to start this game for the time being. Our coaching staff still highly recognizes your technical and tactical abilities. But if you join the team for the first time and become the starter when you come up, I'm afraid you are not very familiar with the team's youth team competition. Although you have served as a starter at Mönchengladbach, the playing styles of our two teams are still very different." Steven, after a pause, there was a hint of embarrassment in his eyes. He patted his shoulder and continued, "In the first half of this game, just watch the game from the bench. In the second half, depending on the situation, you may be replaced at the end to experience the youth team's game." Having partnered with Dennis for so many years, although he told Steven that he wouldn't because of the bet with Feng, he was not given enough playing time. But Steven knows that Dennis will most likely still do this. But Steven still didn't want to let a talented player be benched in this game that was related to the team's performance. As long as Feng is allowed to play, he believes that Feng will be able to score at least one goal. Feng nodded and chuckled. "Okay, Mr. Steven." In fact, Steven didn't ask him to come on as a substitute. He also knew that head coach Dennis would be careful to put him on the bench and not even give him playing time. When you join a team, you always start from the very beginning as a substitute. This seems to be a rule that football clubs have followed for hundreds of years. Players really need to get familiar with the game rhythm and style of the new team, so as not to be unable to integrate into the team during the game and become a failure in the game. As for whether head coach Dennis deliberately didn't give him enough time to prepare because of a bet with him, he guessed not. As far as he knew, the gap between Freiburg and Hamburg's youth training teams was still relatively large. Even if it is a draw, getting a point is extremely important for Freiburg U17. At this moment, the referee blew the whistle to start the game. Beep. Beep. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels, with the enthusiastic shouts of the audience in the stands. The game officially started. The first half started with Hamburg U17. In this game, Freiburg's head coach Dennis still used the basic 4-3-3 3 offensive formation that was used in the starting lineup, using a single attacking midfielder and double midfielder configuration, which was both offensive and defensive. Hamburg U17 has a 3-4-3 diamond midfield formation. The 4 midfielders are matched with a single front midfielder, a single back midfielder, and 2 left and right midfielders in a diamond position, which gives them an advantage in the midfield and can easily good control of the ball and the pace of the game. After the game started, it was obvious that the Hamburg youth training team was much stronger than Freiburg. Hamburg's 4 midfielders steadily controlled the football at their own feet. Even if the ball was accidentally intercepted by Freiburg, the Hamburg U17 players could quickly step forward to recover the press and steal the football back to their own feet. In this case, within 20 minutes, Freiburg's players did not organize a decent attack at all. Even if they managed to get the ball near the opponent's penalty area, it would be intercepted by the Hamburg U17 defender. On the contrary, Hamburg U17's offense was well organized. Several attacks organized by the wings sent the football to the feet of the wingers in the penalty area, but they seemed to have some bad luck in the front. 2 shots were taken, one was saved by the Freiburg goalkeeper, and the other missed the goal post and flew out of the field. Quickly organize the attack, take the initiative to look for opportunities, hit the gaps in their defenders. Seeing that the difference in strength between the two teams was still too big, Freiburg was almost pinned to the ground by the opponent, and head coach Dennis headed towards the center. Alger, the captain of the field, shouted and adjusted the strategy on the field. He knew in his heart that with the strength of Hamburg U17, even if they changed the formation to a huddle defense with 5 defenders, they would still find opportunities to score goals instead of defending. It is better to look for more opportunities to score goals and find a chance to win in dangerous situations. This is the style Dennis likes, but to survive in a dangerous situation, you often have to bear the consequences of failed attempts. Dennis's adjustments to the team's tactics obviously did not allow the team to stand out from adversity, but instead made Freiburg U17 face greater difficulties. The rapid organization of the offense resulted in the team not slowly controlling the ball in the midfield to look for opportunities. Instead, they directly targeted the open positions of the wingers and made long passes to seek breakthroughs. This too tested the personal skills of the 2 wingers. In the end, Freiburg's 2 wingers failed to break through the Hamburg U17 defense and handed over the ball to their opponents several times. This made Freiburg's already poor ball possession rate even worse, directly turning into pitiful less than 20 points. Freiburg, on the other hand, relied on their numerical advantage in the midfield to firmly control the football at their feet, taking their time and patiently looking for opportunities in the front court. At the 38th minute of the game, Hamburg U17 passed and controlled the ball to open up Freiburg's defense. The right winger quickly moved forward from the gap and went straight to Freiburg's penalty area. At this time, the excellent through ball from the midfielder also reached him in time. The opponent's right forward dribbled the ball in, approached the goal, and took a shot. Bang! A heavy sound was heard, and the football hit the upper corner of the far post. Freiburg's goalkeeper jumped up hard, but without even touching the shadow of the football slammed into Freiburg's net. The ball went in, 1-0. Hamburg U17 took the lead in taking the advantage in the away game. After this goal, Freiburg U17 took the kickoff from the center circle and quickly reorganized the attack. It seemed that they wanted to get the score back before the end of the first half, but the Hamburg U17 players, who had just scored a goal, were in high morale and did not leave any chance for Freiburg. Beep. Beep. Not long after, the referee blew the whistle for the first half, and the players from both sides went back to the sidelines to rest and rehydrate. Chapter 013. The head coach's decision. Feng comes on as a substitute during halftime. Freiburg U17 head coach Dennis also realized through the situation on the field just now that he seemed to have failed in his bet. The overall strength of Hamburg U17 is there, and his method of quickly organizing passes is obviously not feasible. Later, he re-instructed the starting players the strategy for the second half, breaking through from Hardy's right wing, relying on Hardy's personal ability to bring the ball into the penalty area, and then passing through to score. Not long after, the players from both sides stepped onto the green field together, and the second half of the game began again. The second half started with Freiburg U17. But soon the ball was transferred to the Hamburg players. With the perfect cooperation of the Hamburg players, the football was quickly brought to the bottom line. Freiburg's defender had no choice but to kick the ball out of the baseline to clear the ball, but at the same time he also gave his opponent a corner kick. The Hamburg midfielder wearing a blue jersey took a nearly perfect corner kick in the corner and flew directly towards his teammates near the penalty spot. The football drew a good arc in the air. A central defender from Hamburg U17 jumped up high, successfully grabbed the point, and pushed the football hard towards the net. Hey, the football hit the ground and bounced into the net. Less than 5 minutes into the second half, Hamburg U17 scored another goal, 2-0, on the sidelines. Assistant coach Steven, who was sitting on the bench, saw this scene and couldn't help but put his hand on his forehead. Inside, compared with Hamburg, Freiburg U17's performance on the field was simply miserable, not to mention that the midfielder couldn't hold the ball, and he couldn't even organize a few good attacks. He was completely pinned to the ground and rubbed by the opponent if no changes are made in the second half. I am afraid that Freiburg will regretfully lose in the first game of the new season. Thinking of this, he suddenly had the idea of replacing Feng to change the situation of the battle. At this time, a burst of cheers burst out from the spectator seat. Steven put down his thoughts and quickly looked towards the field. Freiburg fans came to the football field. They were shouting at this moment. It must be that Freiburg had a good performance. Once he set his sights on the field, he quickly discovered why the fans were cheering. Freiburg's right forward, Hardy, has dribbled the ball near the opponent's bottom line. However, the possibility of him cutting inside the penalty area with the ball is extremely slim. Another central defender of Hamburg has already blocked his breakthrough route in advance. There was no other way. Hardy could only stop the ball on the spot and pass the ball high into Hamburg's penalty area, trying to implement Coach Dennis's tactics and pass the ball to find his teammates. The Freiburg center, who came to grab the ball, lived up to expectations. With the opponent's center-back setting off, he jumped high and successfully hit the football. Hey, there was a look of disappointment in Steven's eyes. Fred's center did not push the football in, but directly pushed it out of the baseline and gave the opponent a goal kick. The ball changed hands again. Dennis, if you don't think of a way, we may really lose this game. Steven couldn't help but walk to Dennis and spread his hands. Dennis' eyes were still on the court. Obviously he couldn't believe that the header just now didn't bring back a point. I have done everything I can. You can also see the gap between us and Hamburg U17. No, Steven interrupted Dennis. You can also try to replace Feng. He may be able to change the result of the game. Dennis showed a trace of hesitation on his face. He believed that if Feng was allowed to play, he could at least reverse the situation and maybe even score a goal. But doesn't this mean he lost the bet? Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. After a brief weighing in his mind, Dennis made a decision immediately. Losing face in front of the players is obviously less important than losing the game. Okay, you go let Feng warm up. Steven nodded, immediately walked to Feng's side, and said something anxiously. Feng, hurry up and warm up. I'll replace you in a moment, okay? Feng nodded slightly, quickly started to warm up formally, and started running on the sidelines. He could tell that Steven and Dennis must be in a bad mood at this moment. If the team fails miserably in the first youth league game of the new season, it will have a great impact on morale in subsequent games. Head coach Steven finally decided to replace himself as Feng jogged to warm up on the sidelines. Many Freiburg fans also showed some doubts in their eyes. Yellow guy, he just came to the team, right? I haven't seen him in the previous games. Probably. Can yellow guys play football? I heard that the football players there, the level is very low. What you said is not quite right. Among the yellow people, Kimchi country and Sakura country still have good players. A fan recognized the Chinese on the back of Feng's jersey. It's just that judging from the Feng on his back, he should be a Chinese. What? Chinese? As the fan's voice fell, the surrounding fans were stunned and even shouted. China is a famous football desert in the football world, with a population of more than 1.3 billion, but not even a few stars playing in Europe. This completely reflects the current situation of Chinese football. Fake, how come you were replaced by a Chinese? Some fans were very dissatisfied and couldn't help but spit out sweet things to Feng, who was warming up. His eyes were also focused on Feng on the court, full of doubts. They couldn't imagine that when the home team lost, they actually tried to replace them with a Chinese to reverse the situation. After all, in their impression, Chinese people are almost equal to waste. Hope God bless you. Feng, who was warming up around the stadium at this time, of course accidentally saw the eyes of these fans. Having been playing football in Europe for so long, he certainly knows what the eyes of these fans mean. It's completely a question of the Chinese people, but Feng has become accustomed to it. Since this is the stereotype of Chinese people, there is no point in complaining. This is a football match, not a debate. Instead of wasting words, it is better to perform well on the court and use practical actions to overturn their remarks soon. Feng's warm-up ended nervously. The fourth official of the game on the sidelines also held up a substitution sign when the next ball was dead. Right winger Balk, number 11 of the Freiburg youth training team, came off the field and replaced Feng. Number 87 Balk ran to the sideline with a slight disappointment in his eyes, clapped hands with Feng, and sat on the bench. Although he knew that Freiburg had been at a disadvantage in this game, he was still quite dissatisfied with the coach's move to replace him. After all, Jean felt that stepping forward at this time was the opportunity to truly express himself, but now, this opportunity was handed over to Feng after the simple handover ceremony. Feng came to the court and found his position as the left forward. The first game in Freiburg finally arrived. He has been waiting for this day for a long time. He had to take the lead in the youth league before slowly entering the first team to compete in the German second division. Then step by step, he slowly became the first Chinese star in Europe. Chapter 014. Abuse in the stands? Marseille's kicks back. As Freiburg's substitution ended, Hamburg initiated their throw-in. Come on Feng, whether you can save the defeat depends on you. I believe you have the strength. You will run more in a while, and I will pass the ball to you, Alger said when he saw Feng coming on the court. For the first time, there was a glimmer of hope in his eyes. He prayed in his heart that Feng would run more on the court and create more opportunities to help Freiburg defeat its opponents. Feng smiled and nodded, agreeing. However, it is definitely impossible to make him run more for a while. Winning the game is important, but compared to the cool value of the system, the latter is obviously more important. Moreover, even if he doesn't run, he can still help Freiburg defeat Hamburg. After the Hamburg youth training team served, Feng slowly walked to his position and maintained his formation. Therefore, the situation on the field did not change in any way because of Feng's entry. The strength of the two server is here. And Feng knows that even if he actively runs, it will have no effect. In most cases, he will still be in a state without the ball, so it is better to move slowly in the front court and wait for the opportunity. He doesn't believe that Freiburg won't even have the chance to send the ball to the winger. Right, with Feng's appearance, the Freiburg fans sitting in the spectator seats were even more surprised. What did this replace? A player who is a desert player in Chinese football is not favored. After being replaced, he doesn't even run actively, compared with a winger on the other side. They are two extremes. Isn't it a joke to let such a person appear on the stage and give him the responsibility to restore his disadvantage? For a time, Feng's poor performance set off a huge wave among the Freiburg fans. Dennis couldn't help but point his finger at Feng on the field, frowned and said angrily, "What on earth is this kid playing? It's okay if he doesn't move actively in the trial. Why is he performing like this in this league? Don't you know the importance of the youth league? Play it as a training match." Stephen on the side patted Dennis on the shoulder. "Don't worry, the wind has just changed. Besides, this isn't the first time you know his playing style, right?" After hearing the word style, Dennis felt a slight pain in his chest, and there was also a feeling in his mind. The image of Berbatov comes to mind. I hope this kid can really become the next Berbatov. Dennis prayed silently in his heart. On the court, Feng was pacing in the front court and passively defending, making Freiburg's situation worse. Fortunately, his teammates knew Feng's playing style and did not complain too much. Instead, they hoped that he could stand up and score a few incredible goals like he did in the training games. In the next 10 minutes, Hamburg continued to press Freiburg, but failed to see several opportunities to expand the score. The fullback of their team was a little confused. Why doesn't the left winger in front of him move? Are you just standing here trying to count the number of people? Unconsciously, he felt that Feng, a yellow man, must also be a parallel football importer. When the fans on the sideline saw Freiburg's performance on the court, they gradually frowned and made irresponsible remarks towards Feng. Why doesn't he run? Did he come to the court for a walk? That's right. Apart from seeing him run a little while warming up just now, he almost never ran again after he came on the field. Some fans even showed a hint of Feng on their faces. A look of disgust. Just now he could have run to the midfield to catch the ball, then passed the ball to the penalty area and moved forward quickly. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. What does it mean to let such a person come on as a substitute? This is not a training match. This is a youth league. How can a striker play like this? How could the head coach be replaced by such a person? The fans on Thessaloniki Innocence again pointed their finger at Feng, even blaming Fred's defeat in the second half on he. At the same time, he also cursed the team's head coach. The voices of doubt became louder and louder, and many fans sitting near the bench directly put pressure on Coach Dennis. "Dennis, how could you let such a player play football? Look at his attitude. Is this the answer sheet you handed in to Freiburg? Have you forgotten your results last year, Dennis? If this is still the case, I suggest you resign as the head coach of Freiburg U17 immediately." You are not suitable to be a football coach." Faced with a flood of doubts, Dennis felt a little regretful and let Su Feng directly replace him. Appeared it was his fault for failing to transform him into an excellent striker, but he would not let the fans abuse him like this. Steven patted his shoulder lightly and pointed to the field, motioning for him to look over. "Man, don't be impatient. Feng has barely gotten a ball on the court. If I don't have any thoughts in your mind, let's wait until the game is over." The team got the ball again now. Dennis nodded and added he cast his eyes on the field again and ignored the accusations from this group of extreme fans at this moment. The game time came to 73 minutes. Freiburg successfully intercepted the pass from the Hamburg midfielder in the backcourt and seized the ball facing Hamburg's high pressure. Freiburg's teammates passed the ball several times and finally passed the ball to the feet of the team's core playmaker, midfielder Alger. Here, Su Feng observed the surrounding environment, and after confirming that there was a chance to break through, he immediately raised his hand to ask for the ball from Alger. Bang! Alger didn't hesitate and passed the ball directly with a long kick. After Su Feng caught the ball steadily, he immediately turned around and dribbled the ball in the direction of the goal. Because Hamburg has been pressing heavily, the three defenders almost have to cross the midfield line. Su Feng received the ball in the midfield and immediately took the ball to attack. The Hamburg defender who defended him did not expect it because he was stunned at the start. When Su Feng broke through after receiving the ball, he was already left behind. Seeing this situation, Hamburg's other two defenders immediately ran a long way to prepare to return to defense, while the central defender attacked directly in the direction of Su Feng's attack with the ball. The central defender closest to Su Feng wanted to use his strong body to cut off the football. Unfortunately, Su Feng moved the ball to the side and easily passed him by relying on his body's flexibility and speed. Bang! A crisp sound of touching the ball sounded. Su Feng's speed flew up. He threw the two opposing defenders behind him with a burst. In front of him, there was only the other side of Hamburg coming from the side. The defender and the goalkeeper. The goal is just around the corner. When he came to the penalty area, Hamburg's defender was not bad at speed, and he still dared to block Su Feng before he kicked off the edge of the penalty area. He opened his hands, and in order to prevent Su Feng from getting past him and forming a single sword, he used all the small movements in his hands to grab his jersey. Bang! Su Feng immediately controlled the speed of the football, moved sideways to protect the ball, and at the same time moved the soles of his feet back, pushing the football to the far side of the defensive center defender. The defensive defender originally ran a long way back to defend, blocking Su Feng's breakthrough route, with his center of gravity almost entirely on one side. When he saw Su Feng's foot movements, he wanted to perform a Marseille's pirouette to pass him, but it was too late to think about anything. His strong body was not enough to allow him to have such superior coordination. Just as he guessed, Su Feng turned around, used the Marseille's spin to pass him, and then kicked off in the penalty area without hesitation. When the opponent's goalkeeper saw this scene, he also gave up defending at the goal and instead stepped forward to block Su Feng's shooting route. Bang! Su Feng hit the left side of the football with the outside instep of his right foot. With a crisp sound, the football rose up in response, drew a wonderful arc in the air, and headed towards the far end of the opponent's goal. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 015. Single goal, hat-trick fantasy. The goalkeeper of Hamburg U17 had a flash of shock in his eyes. The ball passed by him, and he threw himself to the left with all his strength, trying not to block the shot. As long as you can touch the ball and change the ball's flight trajectory. It's a pity that Su Feng's kick was too fast. Hamburg's goalkeeper didn't touch it at all. In other words, he is almost equivalent to shooting an empty goal. In this case, any youth training player with not too bad foot skills can easily score the ball. What's more, Su Feng's skills are indiscriminately killing in the youth training team. Hey, as expected, a clear voice sounded, and the football hit the goal from the far corner. The ball went in. Beep. The referee blew his whistle and waved his arms toward the center circle of the court, indicating that the goal was valid. Freiburg U17 came back in the second half. The score is 1-2, and the point difference is reduced to 1 goal. Ah, Feng, you are so good. This goal is so powerful. Seeing Su Feng forcefully pull back a goal, the Freiburg players all ran towards him with excitement on their faces to celebrate a goal. Goal Alger protected him from the front and patted his back excitedly. Feng, you were so handsome just now. Starting from the midfield, 3 people scored in a row. Hardy, who came belatedly, also clapped with Su Feng in celebration. The Freiburg players had been beaten just now. This meeting finally scored a goal, and the suppressed emotions in his heart were finally released while the Freiburg players were celebrating in a circle. The faces of the Hamburg players who were silently walking towards the midfield to prepare for kickoff were full of shock and frustration. Su Feng's goal just now shocked them so much. Starting from the midfield, he ran with the ball for nearly 30 meters, and he was able to pass the goalkeeper and score the single goal steadily. This kind of strength made the Hamburg players feel a sense of crisis. The advantage they had worked so hard to gain in the first half was easily regained by the substitute boy within 10 minutes of his appearance. Mike, this kid is very strong. You can focus on your defense for a while. Don't let him get the ball so easily again. As Hamburg's captain with great leadership talent, he was also on his way back to the kickoff position. Our three defenders analyzed the key points of defense, and you, the winger from Freiburg just now, you should be defending it, right? He pointed at the fullback who was defending Su Feng just now and continued, look at your performance on the court just now. Did you not wake up and take a walk on the court? They were already running a few meters with the ball before you reacted. The scolded fullback was a little unconvinced and said he was walking on the field just now. I didn't expect him to suddenly break through with the ball. The Hamburg captain frowned and couldn't help but cast his eyes on Su Feng, who was celebrating the goal. Man, there are a lot of things you didn't expect on the field. This kid can score goals while walking. Can you score goals while walking? Let's be more careful on defense later. As his captain shook his head and walked away, the Hamburg fullback felt like a mute eating cactus. Unable to refute, he couldn't help but look back at Su Feng. I began to think about how to defend closely after the kickoff, but if it didn't work, I could only commit a tactical foul with this goal. Su Feng successfully made everyone in the Hamburg U17 team start to take him seriously. This Chinese man is no longer regarded as a parallel import coming out of a football desert. At this moment, the deafening cheers of Freiburg fans came from the spectator seats. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. All the fans had shocked looks on their faces as they sit in the stands and watch the game. They can fully see everything on the field just now. Su Feng dribbled the ball past three people and scored this goal. The visual impact on them was too strong. Some people were even too caught up in the previous goal to react. This goal is great. He is like the savior of Freiburg, relying on his own personal strength to complete this goal. Unexpectedly, a Chinese can actually score such an excellent goal. Some of the fans who were prejudiced against Su Feng just now felt a little raw on their faces and couldn't believe the scene in front of them. The Chinese actually became the only savior against Freiburg who could stand up and break through and score goals. With just this goal, their attitude towards Su Feng changed drastically. Someone who can score such a goal must have good overall strength, but what they couldn't figure out was why before scoring this goal, Su Feng had been running lazily on the court and had such a bad attitude. This is not the performance of an excellent player, but no matter what, Su Feng still scored a goal. Freiburg fans stopped questioning Su Feng for the time being. He was still looking forward to whether Su Feng could repeat the attack just now and help the team even the score. After all, they took the time to watch their team's youth training, and they certainly didn't want to see the team lose at home. Fuck, this kid really didn't disappoint me. On the bench, head coach Dennis saw Su Feng scoring the goal alone. He finally let go of the hands he had clenched because of nervousness. Yes, this goal is so exciting. Steven stood aside, staring closely at Su Feng on the field, as excited as if he saw his own child standing on the podium to accept the award. But there's no problem. Aren't the youth training players in your team just like the coach's children? Man, let me just say that changing the wind and going up was the right choice, right? Steven looked away from the field, patted Dennis on the shoulder, and said with a smile on his face, "This goal is enough to shut up all the fans." Dennis nodded, looking around the spectator seats, and found that the fans were indeed cheering for this goal. All the doubts about him just now disappeared. Dennis was a little smug and couldn't help but uttered a curse word in his mouth. Damn it, why did you shut up now? If Feng scores another goal later and equalizes the score, I don't think they can all compliment me on my excellent substitution skills. Steven couldn't help but chuckle, reminding him somewhat deliberately, Feng has already scored a goal in this game. It seems that your bet with him has been lost, right? Dennis was slightly stunned, but he chuckled after a few seconds. If you lose, you lose, and we've already lost anyway. Let this kid score one more goal and tie the score for me. Don't you hope that Feng will score a hat-trick and beat Hamburg at the last minute? Steven stared into Dennis's eyes and said with interest, hearing what Steven said, Dennis couldn't help but picture what he said in his mind: a Freiburg Academy player making his debut as a substitute when the team fell behind by a big score. He came on as a substitute for 30 minutes. He scored a hat-trick in his first show, with a hint of obscenity. The corners of Dennis's mouth were already slightly raised. He believes that under his guidance, Feng will definitely become the best talented player in Freiburg U17. Beep. Beep. On the playing field, the referee blew the whistle for a new round of service, interrupting Dennis' fantasy in time. The two coaches on the bench once again set their sights on the court. Chapter 016. Escape from death, Freiburg's last chance. The game restarted and the Hamburg U17 players fired the ball from the center circle. Now the game time has reached 75 minutes, and there are still about 15 minutes before the end of the game for Hamburg. It must be a very happy thing to run into the weak Freiburg in the first game of the new season. If they win this game and get 3 points, it will be a very good start. This is very important for player morale. After all, the team's points have been able to remain at the upper reaches of the Youth League, which is pleasing to the eye. Not to mention the club's goals and rewards at this moment. The head coach of the Hamburg youth team is patiently observing the situation on the field. On the bench, he is bound to win these 3 points and cannot make any mistakes. Originally, he thought that based on the momentum of the first half, he could easily win, but the winger replaced by the Freiburg youth team in the second half made him feel inexplicably worried due to his outstanding personal ability. Let Bedge come down, Blake come on, change to 4-4-2 formation, pay attention to the ball control in the midfield, organize the attack slowly, and don't give Freiburg a chance to counterattack quickly. The Hamburg head coach was watching. The forward named Bedge, who was present, seemed to be a little tired and out of breath, and his physical fitness was obviously unable to keep up, so he immediately made substitution adjustments and changed his tactics. At the same time, the originally highly offensive 3-4-3 formation was replaced by an offensive and defensive formation with 4 defenders. He must minimize all uncertainties on the field. Feng was the one who worried him the most. He put on 4 defenders in order to strictly guard him. The assistant coach quickly found the 4th referee with a prepared substitution card at the next dead ball. Hamburg's center-back came on immediately under the tactics of the Hamburg coach. The Hamburg team did not press as hard as they did in the first half. Instead, they steadily passed the ball back to the defender and played a ball possession game in the backcourt. On the field, the rhythm of the game was completely controlled by the Hamburg youth team. In the next 5 minutes, Hamburg almost completely controlled the ball, and Freiburg had no chance to organize an attack. The game went to the 80th minute. Berger finally took a chance. They took advantage of the numerical advantage in the midfield and used a series of exquisite short passes in the front court to successfully open up a gap in Freiburg's defense. At the same time, the players quickly moved forward and successfully opened a gap in Freiburg's backcourt. Causal, the Hamburg midfielder who took the ball, cut inside and brought the ball into the penalty area with his excellent foot skills. Then he smashed the ball past the defense of a Freiburg center-back. At this time, only a Freiburg goalkeeper stood between him and the goal. Bang! Without hesitation, the Hamburg midfielder raised his foot directly in the penalty area, rubbed his left foot under the football, twisted the football into an arc, and shot directly towards the dead center above Freiburg's goal. Hiss! In the spectator stands, Freiburg fans couldn't help but sweat for their team when they saw their opponent kick a long shot directly from the top of the penalty area. Even Dennis, the head coach of Freiburg's youth team, was a little afraid that this high-quality long-range shot would directly blow away his own goal. They all stood up and stood on tiptoes to check the flight path of the football. It's too dangerous. At the 80-minute mark, if Hamburg can score another goal, it can be said that Freiburg will have no chance of comeback. It's difficult to recover 2 goals in 10 minutes. Freiburg's goalkeeper obviously didn't expect that the opponent would kick directly from this position. He was stunned for a moment and then threw himself in the direction of the football, but it is difficult to judge the landing of this curved ball. Duong, a dull sound of impact sounded. The Hamburg midfielder's long shot, maybe because he was too focused on the angle, actually hit the upper edge of the ball frame. The football bounced off the baseline after impact. Freiburg narrowly escaped death. Seeing this scene, the Hamburg midfielder who had just shot showed a trace of disappointment in his eyes. He waved his arms fiercely, seeming to express his unwillingness, and then immediately turned around and ran towards the midfielder. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. In the entire stadium, almost everyone's heart was pushed to their throats by the long shot just now. This ball is really a game-winning kick. Soon, the game continued. Freiburg's goalkeeper raced against time to get a new football from the assistant referee and placed it in front of the goal to prepare for the goal kick. These last 10 minutes are the key to determining the victory as the lagging side. Freiburg players did not dare to waste this little time. Maybe it was because the game was about to end, and after Freiburg took the goal kick, the Hamburg players quickly retreated, recovered and started to defend. Their victory would obviously be much simpler for Freiburg as long as Freiburg can't score a goal in the last 10 minutes. It's enough to equalize the score. After receiving the goal kick from the goalkeeper, the Freiburg players quickly began to press forward with the ball and quickly organize the attack. They must seize the ball that they cannot easily get after several turnovers. The football was quickly passed by Freiburg across the half-court. Bang! After the midfielder received the ball, he saw that Feng intended to return the ball and pass the ball directly to him. Seeing Feng take the ball again, Hamburg's entire defense immediately tensed up and braced themselves to keep an eye on him to prevent him from entering the penalty area alone again. After receiving the ball, Feng took the ball forward calmly while observing the situation on the court. After seeing the opponent's fullback rushing towards him fiercely, Feng flicked the ball towards the opponent's sideline. A trace of worry immediately appeared on the Hamburg fullback's face. He was afraid that Feng would speed up from the wing and pass the ball along with him. Then he will become the laughingstock of the Hamburg youth team. Because of this game, as a result, he was forced to break immediately and quickly stretched his feet towards the sideline to block him, trying to use his body advantage to block him from the sideline in the backcourt. But this was completely Feng's fake move. He stepped forward with his left foot and quickly poked the ball to the right. At the same time, he made a gorgeous turn and passed the fullback directly, and football, according to Feng's plan, appeared at his feet again as promised. But in front of him, a central defender from Hamburg had been standing near the penalty area, ready to defend at any time. Of course, he didn't want the fullback to be passed so easily. However, it was obvious that this fullback failed to live up to expectations and was destined to become the laughingstock of the entire team. Facing the center-back's defense, Feng has already brought a ball to the edge of the penalty area. If he takes a shot from this position, the shooting route will definitely be blocked, so he decisively chose not to kick, but passed the ball back to midfielder Alger, who came up from the center. A perfect inverted triangle is formed. The football was passed to Alger's feet. As a veteran of the youth team, he very calmly raised his foot and shot the ball towards the opponent's goal. Bang! But before the football came to the goal, another central defender from Hamburg immediately stepped forward and blocked the ball with his back. The ball bounced back into Hamburg's penalty area. At this tense moment, Alger didn't know when Feng had returned to the penalty area from near the baseline, and he judged the placement of the football perfectly. "No! Stop him!" a central defender from Hamburg almost screamed. But it was obviously too late. They don't have as good a feel for the ball as Feng and can judge the ball's placement so accurately. Soon, the football had landed on Feng's waist almost out of muscle memory. He raised his foot and directly hit the football that was falling fast with his side foot. Bang! Chapter 017. Scored twice. Hamburg defender's explosive tackle. A crisp voice sounded. The football that bounced off at high speed was kicked by Feng and changed its direction. It was like an arrow leaving the string and shot directly towards the goal with the blessing of Van Persie's star skills. This is a high-quality volley. The football flew in the air, showing a very strange arc. The entire football field seemed to stand still for a moment. No one made any more noise. No one made any more moves, because Hamburg's defenders simply couldn't react to the sudden volley. They can only stare at the football and pray that the ball will fly out of the frame. When Hamburg's goalkeeper heard the bang, he was completely dumbfounded. He didn't expect that the football that had been released just now would fly towards his home goal again. The crowded penalty area completely blocked his sight by the time he saw the football. The ball had already flown into the small penalty area, only 2 meters away from the goal. In such a short distance, he couldn't make any effective save at all. Hey, as expected, the football hit the goal again. The ball went in again. Freiburg pulled 1 point back again in the last 10 minutes. Currently, it's a 2-2 tie on the field. Feng's 2 goals successfully tied the score. Beep. The referee blew his whistle and pointed to the arc of the center circle to indicate that the goal was valid. Fuck, this kid hardly moves on the court. Is it so difficult to guard him and prevent him from getting the ball? On the sidelines, the Hamburg head coach looked a little gloomy and pointed with a dark face. He watched his own players curse and reprimanded, who was standing at the top of the penalty area just now. The opponent's winger suddenly broke into the penalty area. Don't you know how to defend? Don't you feel very ashamed when your opponent scores a goal like this? The Hamburg head coach scolded in a loud voice, and he was a little out of breath after speaking in the first game of the new season. He met a team ranked lower in strength and ended up with a 1-point draw, which really made him very angry. Moreover, in the first half of the game, they used a crushing force to push Freiburg to the ground and kick, but in the second half, After the Chinese boy came on as a substitute, everything changed. Originally, the opponent's first goal was caused by Hamburg's weak defense and the player's contempt for Feng, but wasn't the second goal a bit inappropriate? With two defenders on defense, he was allowed to dribble the ball near the baseline, pass the winning goal, and after the shot was blocked, he stepped forward to score a supplementary shot. Why did such an incredible player appear in Freiburg instead of Hamburg? Hamburg's head coach thought for a long time and couldn't come up with an answer, so he shook his head regretfully. It's so powerful. The wind, you are really our savior in Freiburg. On the court, bursts of cheers erupted again. Freiburg's teammates surrounded Feng and celebrated with him today. It was Feng who completely reversed the score on the court with his own personal skills. If it weren't for him, this group of youth training boys from Freiburg would really not be able to hold their heads up on the green field. The Hamburg players standing behind them had frustration written all over their faces hearing the scolding from the coach on the sidelines. Their heads lowered even lower, especially the two defenders who were marking Feng just now. They couldn't figure out why they made such a serious mistake just now. Perhaps it's because player number 87, wearing the black and red jersey of Freiburg, runs lazily on the field and is too unnoticed, or maybe it's because he has very strong skills and tactics in running without the ball on the field. In short, everything is because of Feng. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. When Freiburg left winger Balk, who was sitting on the bench, saw the scene in front of him, his eyelids twitched slightly. He came on as a substitute in his first game, and in a very short period of time, he reversed the strong team Hamburg U17 and scored twice to equalize the score. Such an excellent performance is enough for Feng to secure his starting position. Even if Feng has not adapted to Freiburg's game rhythm yet, there may be problems with his own game attitude. But this does not affect him from replacing himself in the future and becoming the starting winger of Freiburg U17. Thinking of this, Bach couldn't help but hold his eyes with both hands and did not dare to look at the field. Come on Freiburg, come on number 87. As Freiburg scored, deafening cheers sounded again in the spectator seats. The attitude of the fans at the scene towards Feng completely changed at this moment, and no one blatantly questions Feng's negative attitude on the court again. Put these things aside, Freiburg player number 87 Feng is the savior of this game. There is no doubt about it. Not long after the game started again, Hamburg U17 initiated a mid-circle kick. Perhaps it was because of the pride of these little brats that after the ball was served, without receiving instructions from the head coach, they pressed hard into the front court in an attempt to penetrate Freiburg's goal at the last moment and score the winning goal. This is how to save their face. On the sidelines, the Hamburg coach looked surprisingly ugly. He knows that at the last minute, players will pay a heavy price for being impulsive, but he also has face that needs to be saved if they lose in the away game. It will be a real upset. The game time came to 85 minutes. The situation that the Hamburg head coach was most worried about appeared when their midfielder was quickly passing a short pass. The ball was accidentally intercepted by the Freiburg defender. The ball changed to Freiburg's side, and they immediately launched a quick counter-attack under the organization of Captain Alger. After passing the football several times, it came to Hardy's feet through unremitting training. He quickly turned around after receiving the ball and directly dribbled the ball straight into the opponent's penalty area. Discovering that Freiburg had launched a counter-attack, the Hamburg players could not tolerate their final fig leaf of a draw being so easily removed. Several defenders immediately chased back desperately. A few seconds later, Hardy had brought a ball to the outside of the penalty area, more than 30 meters away from the goal. When the only Hamburg defender who rushed back saw something was wrong, he immediately tackled the football. Hardy skillfully pushed the football aside with his right foot, trying to dodge the opponent's defender with his coordination, but this defender from Hamburg came with a tactical foul. How could Hardy slip away so easily? Bang! The Hamburg defender who tackled Hardy hit the side of his left foot with a shovel. He lost his center of gravity and fell hard to the lawn. Beep! Seeing this, the referee immediately blew the foul whistle and ran over to show the tackler a yellow card. The Freiburg players who came over after hearing the sound helped Hardy up from the ground and were concerned about his injury. Fortunately, this time Hamburg's defender tackled the ball and did not tackle Hardy's calf. Otherwise it would have been a serious foul. After simply standing up and moving his left foot, Hardy could move his left foot again. When the referee saw that the player was not seriously injured and could still play, he awarded a free kick for the foul. Just now, while lining up the wall, Dennis, who was sitting on the bench, couldn't help but shake his head. Hamburg pressed too hard just now, which caused the other two forwards on our front line to be too far back. Otherwise, Hardy could have chosen to give the ball to others just now. As he spoke, Dennis set his sights on. Besides, Feng doesn't seem to be moving much at all. Ahem, cough. Cough. Steven coughed a few times awkwardly and said with a smile. It's not like you don't know Feng's playing style. He will only actively run when he has the ball to attack, and he has performed very well in this game. You always have to give other players some opportunities to perform, and if the whole team, it's not a good thing to be supported by the test style. Dennis ignored Steven's words and instead turned his attention to Alger again on the field, who was about to take a free kick. Chapter 018. Hat trick, first victory in the league. Beep. After the players on both sides were ready, the referee blew the starting whistle because the free kick is still more than 30 meters away from the goal. There is currently no outstanding free kick master in the Freiburg youth team who can score the ball with one kick from such a long distance, and this goal is another one that determines the outcome of the game. As long as Freiburg scores this goal, they will beat their opponent at the last moment of the game, so the team chose the safest way, passing the ball and scoring. Captain Alger, the best crosser in the team, took the free kick, while other players scored headers and subsequent follow-up shots in the penalty area. Alger stood in front of the football. He did not take off his feet anxiously, but observed the position on the court. Hamburg just sent a few forwards to stand in the direction of the shot to symbolically block it. The rest of the people stood near the penalty spot, waiting for the landing spot of the football cross. After waiting for a moment, Alger took a deep breath, adjusted his posture, and then took a slow approach and kicked the bottom of the football with his outside instep. Bang! The football flew into the air, reached the highest point in the air, and then fell rapidly. The target landing point was near Hamburg's penalty spot. At this time, the taller defenders from both sides were already in position, staring at the football, waiting for the ball to fall and grab the ball. The quality of Alger's free kick was very good, and there was not much error. The football appeared steadily above the penalty spot. A 1.95-meter central defender from Hamburg, after determining the landing point of the football, jumped up with confidence. Taking off at the same time as him were two Freiburg defenders, but obviously, Hamburg's central defender has a clear height advantage, and his jumping ability is very good when leaping into the air. He was obviously much higher than Freiburg's two defenders. Bang! The point grab was successful. The football was violently pushed away by the Hamburg defender and flew outside the penalty area on the sidelines. Just when the Hamburg coach breathed a sigh of relief, but he suddenly discovered that the figure who had made him resentful throughout the second half actually appeared near the ball's landing point again. Feng, wearing jersey number 87 of Freiburg, actually judged the ball's placement correctly again and appeared below it first. What kind of terrifying judgment is this? Hamburg's head coach stared at Feng's figure and slowly exhaled a breath. Judging from the positioning layout on the court, Feng did not have any Hamburg players to defend him. All their focus was on the free kick. Even the two forwards, after completing the wall task, stood still waiting for the football to land. In other words, that is to say, Feng is completely undefended now. He can completely shoot from outside the penalty area again, or make a cross. The crisis in Hamburg is not over yet. Bang! After the football fell into the range where Feng could kick it, he did not hesitate and volleyed directly at the goal. With a dull sound, the football, which was already carrying huge potential energy, changed its direction again and headed towards the goal. The ball was well pressed by Feng and drew a perfect rainbow arc in the air. After it passed high over the crowd standing near the penalty spot, it fell rapidly and was about to fall into Hamburg's goal. When the Hamburg goalkeeper saw these shots from Feng, a slight psychological shadow appeared in his heart. Is this shot the performance a 17-year-old youth team player should have? He has been the starting goalkeeper of Hamburg's youth team for less than half a year. Why is he suffering so much? Negative emotions flashed through his mind, but Hamburg's goalkeeper still gritted his teeth and was ready to save when the football was about to hit the ground. He wants to hold this ball to prove his strength as a starter, but the trajectory of the football's whereabouts was very strange, and he couldn't completely determine where it landed. The football fell hard from his side and landed in front of the goal. After ejection, it easily flew into the net. The ball went in again. In the last 3 minutes of the game, Feng's super long-range volley successfully sealed the game. Freiburg 3-2, defeated the youth league team Hamburg at home. Beep. The head coach blew the whistle again, pointing to the center circle with both hands, announcing that the goal was valid. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. Suddenly, there was warm applause from the spectator seats. That's great. Player number 87 scored all the goals in this game. What's his name? Don't you know Chinese? Tell me quickly. With such terrifying strength, I believe he is very good. Will you join the first team soon? Freiburg coach Dennis, who was sitting on the bench, couldn't help but jump up and wave his fists. A goal was scored at this time and it could already be declared that Freiburg had won at home, perhaps because he felt that waving like this was not enough to relieve his anger. Dennis walked out of the bench directly, stood on the edge of the court with his hands spread out, and looked at the fans in the stands as if to show off how great his substitution tactics are. In this game, it was entirely because of his timely adjustment of substitutions that the victory of this game was reversed. Not long after, Hamburg kicked off again at midfield, but now the time has come to the last minute. And with the stoppage time in the second half, there is not even 5 minutes left. Beep. Beep. Before Hamburg could organize an effective attack, the referee blew the whistle to end the game. Freiburg U17 defeated a strong enemy at home and won the first league win of the new season. This is an unexpected result, but today, because of Su Feng's 3 goals, we did it. At this moment, a mechanical voice came from Su Feng's minding. Congratulations to the host for winning this competition. Running distance 1,462 meters. Rating S level. Reward coolness value 3. Current coolness value 9. At the end of the game, the Hamburg players walked towards the sidelines dejectedly. Sports competition is cruel. There is only one winner in every game, and the other can only be the loser, and today, they happened to be the losers. The head coach of Hamburg saw the frowning faces of the players and forcefully swallowed the anger he had just prepared in his heart. Freiburg youth training is relatively weak among the German youth training systems. For several consecutive years, they have been ranked at the lower reaches of the youth league. Therefore, Hamburg's head coach feels no less disappointed than these players. However, today he felt that Hamburg U17 did not lose to Freiburg. They just lost to the No. 87 player wearing Freiburg's black and red jersey. Afterwards, he simply greeted the players to leave the stadium and go to the gate to take the bus to leave Freiburg. It didn't take long for the Hamburg players to finish cleaning up and all left the stadium. The remaining time is the celebration time for the Freiburg players. The fans on the sidelines cheered. They used this way to celebrate the home team's victory. This is very normal in Germany, which has a strong football culture. The youth training players are worthy of his applause and flowers when they win. Feng, that super distance volley you just shot was so cool. I can't believe that you are so skilled. I think you can take all the team's free kicks in the future. Captain Algie immediately rushed to Su Feng's side and fist bumped with him in celebration. That's right. The victory over Hamburg today is all due to you. That's great. I completed a hat trick on my debut. Feng, how did you do such an accurate volley? That was 30 meters distance. The Freiburg players gathered together and began their own celebration, praising the team's savior one after another. If one kick can fool him, Su Feng's 2 consecutive high-quality volleys today have completely made all the players on the team become his little fans. Su Feng listened to everyone's exaggeration, scratched his head, and replied with a smile, "It's not difficult, as long as you train more, you can do it." Everyone nodded when they heard this. I secretly vowed in my heart that I would never be lazy again and practice my ball skills well. Chapter 019. Celebration Banquet. Nightclubs are the first choice. After celebrating on the court for a while, the Freiburg players returned to the locker room to take a shower and change clothes. The team members were talking and laughing, and at the same time, they had subconsciously regarded Su Feng as the core of the team. Originally, they saw that Su Feng was so strong in the training match, and they were a little worried that he would not be able to adapt to the rhythm of the game when he came to the field and would not be able to perform well. But after today's second half, Su Feng scored a hat trick and chased 3 points in a row. This idea no longer exists. Young people of this age, when they are motivated, do not give in to power, and what they admire the most are strong players. Captain Alger's face was particularly excited. He wiped his head with a towel and chatted with Su Feng outside the locker room. "Feng, are you busy tonight? The team members are impressed by your performance this afternoon and want to ask you to go out for a celebration banquet tonight, as today's great hero. I hope you can attend." Su Feng smiled and nodded. "I'm very happy to participate." "That's great." Alger clenched his fist and gently nailed it to Su Feng's chest to express his excitement. Then, he turned around and asked a group of teammates around him, "Have you figured out what to eat tonight? Let's talk about some good food nearby. Let Feng choose one and let's go." Other Freiburg youth training players have stayed at the club longer than Su Feng, therefore, they are very familiar with the surrounding food. Even Alger, a local, sometimes has to ask them for advice on eating. The players have mentioned several good characteristics of Freiburg, but after Su Feng heard these places, he sighed silently. "Why are these young guys so serious? Even when you go out to celebrate, the restaurant you choose is so formal. It's not a Western restaurant, it's a specialty restaurant in this case. How can Su Feng conduct special training?" Su Feng was stunned for a moment, Then slowly asked Alger, "Captain, will the coach attend the celebration banquet tonight?" Hearing this, Alger was a little surprised. He didn't know why Su Feng suddenly asked this problem arises. But even though he didn't know the reason, he still answered immediately, "Our team members asked you to go to the celebration banquet tonight. Originally, I was going to call Mr. Dennis, but he had something to do tonight and had no choice but to go. The other assistant coaches saw the coach didn't go, so he naturally declined." Upon hearing this answer, the corners of Su Feng's mouth raised slightly. "No coach here, then why not go to a restaurant? Just go to a nightclub to drink and dance. In that case, I know a good place. Can I take you there tonight?" Su Feng said with a smile. "No problem, Feng." Other teammates thought that today's celebration banquet was mainly for Su Feng. At this moment, he mentioned where he wanted to go, and of course he agreed at the first moment. Only Alger was slightly stunned and looked at Su Feng with confusion. Feng has just opened the club for less than a week and has only been out on the first day. Then the place he recommended wouldn't be a nightclub, right? Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. Instantly, Alger had a bad premonition. Before long, all the team members had washed up, changed their clothes, and bustled out of Freiburg's youth training base. Su Feng, Alger, Hardy and others led the way, while the rest of the team members followed behind. They were talking and laughing all the way, and they all discussed Su Feng's magical goal in the afternoon game. As they were about to reach the commercial street, Alger saw the familiar buildings around him, and his bad premonition became stronger. He pulled the corner of Su Feng's clothes, leaned next to him and asked in a low voice, "Feng, the place you took us to tonight won't be the nightclub you went to last time, right?" "How do you know?" Su Feng was a little surprised suddenly. When Alger heard the words nightclub, the expression on his face changed. He narrowed his eyes at Su Feng and spoke with some uncertainty, "Feng, are you kidding?" The expression on Alger's face became more serious the more he spoke. "Professional players are not allowed to go to nightclubs. The youth training team may be a little more relaxed, but almost all first-team head coaches, they all run the army with iron blood and strictly demand the private lives of the players. If the news about you going to the nightclub is spread, your career will be ruined." Su Feng shook his head indifferently, meaningfully. He looked at Alger. "Captain, you are being superficial. We came to the nightclub to celebrate with a drink because we won the game. We just need to control the time and go back early. In China, we can't do anything happy without having a drink, and how can you say it is so serious? Don't you think Ibrahimovic still smokes cigars to relax after winning the game? Will this affect his becoming a legendary player in football?" Ibrahimovic Key is a legendary player in the football world. He has an arrogant personality and tall stature. He was nicknamed Offensin by netizens for joining too many wealthy clubs. He was once photographed smoking a cigar to celebrate after a World Cup qualifying match, but this did not have a big impact on him. Instead, it became a label for his personal character. Of course Alger knew this, but his philosophy of being a professional player was a bit deep-rooted, and he couldn't accept Su Feng's point of view for a while. But in today's league, after all, it was Su Feng who turned the tide against Hamburg with his own strength. After thinking for a while, Alger, as the captain, did not want to dampen the interest of Su Feng, the team leader, causing a rift in the relationship between the two and affecting the team's performance. "Moreover, I only went to a nightclub once. As long as the coaching staff didn't find out, nothing would happen." After a group of people walked for less than 10 minutes, they arrived at the nightclub Su Feng went to last time. Standing at the door of the nightclub, this group of young boys couldn't let go. After all, they had been obsessed with football in their childhood. "Feng, are you going to take us to a nightclub to celebrate tonight?" one of Freiburg's starting defenders asked Su Feng with a confused look on his face. "That's right, if you win the game, of course you have to go to the nightclub to have some drinks to celebrate. But, our coach has told us since childhood that professional players cannot drink alcohol, as this will harm the body and affect their physical fitness." Alger walked here. The defender patted his shoulder and said to the people around him, "It's okay, it's the habit of Feng's hometown. He always likes to drink and celebrate after a victory. We're only here this once. Drink less and go back early, and nothing will happen." Everyone saw Al as the captain. Jidu said this, and all the worries in his heart were swept away. The children with raging hormones were curious about this world of feasting and entertainment. They originally did not dare to come in and play under the strict requirements of the coach, but this time, with the company of my teammates, it is a good choice to give it a try. Chapter 020. An old friend visits and meets the players outside the bar at the same time. Freiburg Youth Training Base, in the head coach's office. A slightly short middle-aged German man in a suit lay on the sofa looking tired and chatting with Dennis. "Ed, what brought you back to Freiburg?" Dennis handed the man named Ed a cup of coffee with a smile on his face. "My father encountered something in Freiburg. I came back to help solve it." Ed took the coffee, took a shallow sip, and then placed a coffee on the table as if he had no appetite. "I heard that Freiburg U17 defeated the strong youth training team Hamburg U17 at home today." Ed didn't seem to want to talk about why he returned to Freiburg, and took the initiative to change the topic to football. He and Dennis are both from Freiburg, and they have known each other since childhood. He once joined Freiburg Club's youth training team as an assistant coach. Only a few years ago, Ed went to Duisburg's first team in the Bundesliga too as an assistant coach, while Dennis was promoted to the head coach of the Freiburg youth training team. As a native of Freiburg, Ed still regards Freiburg as his second home team and pays close attention to the youth training of his old friends. That's right, a 3-2 victory over Hamburg. Dennis showed a somewhat proud look on his face. As the head coach, he defeated a strong youth training team in the first game of the new season, which is indeed something worth showing off. Furthermore, I also found a player with very outstanding technical and tactical abilities. I believe that it won't be long before he will be invincible in the Bundesliga." Ed was stunned for a moment and looked at Dennis with squinted eyes. "Could it be you? Is that player in question the Chinese player who came on as a substitute today?" Dennis nodded. He was not surprised that Ed knew about Su Feng's existence. After all, Su Feng's performance today was so outstanding that he broke the fans' doubts about him and became a hot topic among the fans. "I heard that he is very skilled at his feet. He came on the scene in the last 20 minutes and scored 3 goals. Ed opened his mouth, a little incredulous. Generally, newcomers who have just joined the team come on as a substitute to familiarize themselves with the team's rhythm, but this Chinese player directly scored 3 goals in the first game, helping the Freiburg youth team reverse the strong team Hamburg. With this kind of strength, he can definitely compete in the Bundesliga too, and he might even be able to serve as a starter in a weak team." Thinking of this, Ed couldn't help but think of the situation of Duisburg, the home team he coached last season, barely surviving relegation. There are no strong foreign players introduced in the new season. It can be said that this season they will be anxious to grab points and fight for the chance of relegation. Slowly exhaling a breath of turbid air, Ed made a somewhat embarrassed sound. "Dennis, I think this Chinese player is very strong and has the ability to play in the Bundesliga too. Have you ever considered renting him out? If so, you can definitely consider me coaching him. Duisburg, I can guarantee you that this kid will definitely be a main player after he goes there." Upon hearing this, Dennis's face darkened instantly. Su Feng is a new player he has just introduced to the Freiburg U17 this season. He has not yet finished a season and won a youth league championship for the team. How can he be willing to loan Su Feng out? "Ed, don't even think about poaching him. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels," Dennis said in a very firm tone. "He hasn't finished this season yet, so I can't let him go. Besides, the Freiburg first team he is also playing in the Bundesliga. The first choice for him to play in the Bundesliga will definitely be Freiburg. I believe that Mr. Stricky, the head coach of Freiburg's first team, is not willing to give up such an excellent player." "A young player," Ed nodded. He wanted to introduce Su Feng, but it was just a temporary move to see if Dennis was willing to sell him. If not, it won't affect the two of them's dinner together in the evening. "It's getting late, let's go out and have a drink." Dennis lit a cigarette, stood up from the sofa, and interrupted their conversation about Su Feng's loan. "Okay, old place." After Ed finished speaking, he stood up and followed Dennis out of the Freiburg youth training base and walked towards the commercial street to the north. When the two coached together in Freiburg, they often went to a bistro in the North Commercial Street for a drink after the game. This time Ed finally returned to Freiburg, and he definitely wanted to have another drink with Dennis. On the way, both complained about some unsatisfactory things they had done at the club in recent years. But perhaps because both of them are football coaches, the final topic still focused on the club's performance. When talking about problems, Dennis and Ed are simply brothers in need. The teams they coach have performed poorly in recent seasons. However, Dennis' situation is a little different. He sees hope this season. A hope for the team to get into the youth league. As soon as he thought about this, Dennis couldn't help but show off Su Feng's outstanding talent. At the age of 17, he has skillful footwork and amazing volleys. Dennis became more and more excited as he talked, describing Su Feng's every move on the field so vividly that he didn't even have time to shake off the cigarette ashes in his hand. After his teammate passed the ball, he didn't even stop the ball and volleyed directly from his waist to score. Pedestrians who were not paying attention to the football game along the way looked at the two people with doubts in their eyes. When they saw one of them looking so excited, they thought they were talking about the Champions League finals. Ed couldn't help but exclaimed when he heard Dennis' story. This kid has such a good feel for the ball. He knew that Dennis would not exaggerate because he was one of his own players. In other words, during the 20 minutes that this Chinese boy appeared on the stage, he gave a completely brilliant performance. That's right, Dennis responded, looking towards Ed involuntarily. But the next second, he was surprised to find that several boys on his team were hiding behind a neon sign. "Barry, why are you here?" Dennis called out the name of one of the central defenders in confusion, and then turned his attention to the sign. "I saw the colorful font on it, Midnight Forest Bar. Chapter 021. Chinese boy? Not worthy of being a professional player." The Freiburg central defender named Barry was originally hiding behind the sign, his eyes a little dodgy, in order to avoid being noticed by the head coach Dennis. But now, Dennis had seen him, and he could only respond timidly. "Mr. Dennis, good evening, why are you guys here?" Dennis' voice was a bit harsh with a confused look on his face, and he walked slowly towards Barry. Before Barry could explain, he had already arrived at the signboard and had a clear view of the situation at the entrance of the tavern. The person facing his eyes was Alger, the captain of the Freiburg youth team, and behind him stood other members of the Freiburg youth team. "God, how could we be so unlucky? We bumped into Mr. Dennis for the first time," one of the Freiburg players hiding behind couldn't help but sigh. Alger held his head and said something with a somewhat embarrassed expression. "Coach, good evening." Dennis ignored Alger's greetings, with a bit of disgust in his eyes, and asked sternly, "Alger, why are you here in the nightclub?" As he spoke, his nose moved slightly. After a moment, the pungent smell of alcohol from the team members hid his face instantly, causing him to cover his nose. Coupled with the drunken demeanor of everyone, Dennis, a veteran of Jianghu, saw the clues at a glance. "Don't you have any sense of time at all? You don't even look at what time it is now. Why don't you go back to the dormitory to rest? Do you think that if you win the game, you won't have to train tomorrow?" Dennis was furious. There was some floating up and down, and the silver teeth made a clicking sound. "Besides, you all came to a nightclub to drink together. It's simply too much." Upon seeing this, Ed also walked to Dennis' side, glanced around the Freiburg youth training players, and shook his head with some disappointment. "Dennis, I didn't expect you to be so lax in your management of the players now. You actually let them come to the nightclub to drink. I really don't know what the expression on Strachey's face would be if he found out about this." One stretch, the head coach of Freiburg's first team, personally emphasized the precautions for managing players at the meeting, including strict requirements that players are not allowed to go to nightclubs to drink. This is also an express rule of almost all European clubs. If what happened tonight reaches Strachey's ears, Dennis will definitely be scolded. Dennis had a dark face and squinted his eyes to look for Su Feng in the crowd. As expected, he soon spotted Su Feng, who was standing in the crowd, arm in arm with the team members. "Su Feng, you brought everyone to the nightclub to drink tonight, right?" Dennis glared at Su Feng angrily. "Before you joined the team, I had never found any other players drinking." After hearing these words, Alger, who was standing at the front, immediately replied first. "Mr. Dennis, it was not Feng's idea to go tonight. I saw that everyone defeated the strong Hamburg team in the first game of the new season, and I wanted to bring everyone to the nightclub to relax." "You?" Dennis couldn't help but sneered. "Alger, besides taking everyone to eat at that pickled cabbage and pig's trotters restaurant, I really can't think of any other place." Alger was so embarrassed that he almost left the three-bedroom apartment. In the past few years since he joined Freiburg's youth training, he really has a soft spot for that sauerkraut and pig's trotters restaurant, and calls his teammates to have a meal almost every month. Of course, head coach Dennis knows all about this little hobby. Seeing his old friend Dennis getting angry at the players at the door of the nightclub, Ed quickly patted him on the shoulder. "Dennis, this is not the place to talk. Do you want everyone in the nightclub to know that the members of the Freiburg youth training group drank alcohol in the nightclub tonight?" Ed said and glanced at the Freiburg youth training team. The players sighed. "If you have any anger, let's wait until tomorrow's training to discuss it. Let these guys go back to the dormitory first." Even though Dennis was furious at the moment, what Ed said was true. It stands to reason that the collective drunkenness of Freiburg youth training players cannot be spread to the ears of fans. In that case, the Freiburg Youth Academy will become a joke in the entire European football world and be labeled as an alcoholic team. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. Thinking of this, Dennis nodded, suppressed the anger in his heart, and reluctantly said to Alger, "Alger, take the players and get out of here." The Freiburg youth training players breathed a sigh of relief when Coach Dennis told them to go back first. Then, he hurriedly slipped away from Dennis. Seeing that the Freiburg youth training players had already left, Ed just started talking to Dennis. "The person who took the lead you just mentioned is probably the Chinese boy you praised last night, right?" Dennis slowly exhaled a breath of turbid air, took out a cigarette and lit one for himself. "That's right." Hearing Dennis's confirmation, a trace of disappointment appeared on Ed's face. Disappointed and even more disdainful. "Unexpectedly, the player you call extremely talented could actually be a player with such a messy private life. In this case, I have to take back what I just said. This kid is not qualified to play in the Bundesliga too. No, he's not even worthy of becoming a qualified professional player." Dennis glanced at Ed out of the corner of his eye, wanting to refute what he said. However, when the words came to his lips, he couldn't say a word. His private life is chaotic and he is indeed not qualified to be a qualified player. This also made his desire to correct Feng even more urgent. After this minor incident, Dennis continued to follow Ed to the old tavern where the two of them used to go, smoking a cigarette. But this time, Dennis's mind was no longer filled with memories of his and Ed's youth. Instead, he was thinking about how to get Feng to get rid of this bad habit. After all, only by improving his personal life can he become a qualified professional football player. Only then can he compete in the Bundesliga in the future. Only then can he stand on the podium and win the Big Years Cup and the Ballon d'Or. The next day, Dennis, who was drunk last night, woke up half an hour later than usual, but it still did not affect his arrival at the Freiburg youth training base early. As usual, he and Steven were having breakfast in the cafeteria, talking about the team's recent situation. After Steven listened to Dennis' story about what happened in the nightclub last night, his face turned pale and he frowned and asked, "Dennis, how are you going to handle this matter?" Dennis snorted and said disdainfully, "How else to handle this? If Feng can't change these bad habits in his body, he won't have to play in the game anymore." Steven was stunned for a moment, and then continued after a while. "But in the next game, we will not face another team, but Dortmund, which is already famous for its defense. If Feng doesn't play, I think we will definitely lose this game." "That's not necessarily the case." Dennis put down the milk in his hand and lit up a cigarette. "Dortmund U17 is only known for its defense, and its forward strength is not very good. I believe that even if Hardy can't break through their defense, we can defend Dortmund so they can't score." Steven was silent for a while inside. "Dennis, I don't quite agree with your idea. With Feng's strength, he can definitely serve as the main force of the team. There is no need to prevent players from playing because of this kind of thing. This will be very detrimental to the growth of players." After slowly blowing out a smoke ring, Dennis shook his head, his voice a little serious. "You're wrong, man. If we can't even establish the coach's prestige, who will obey our tactics in the future? How can the players play the game? Stop begging for mercy on this matter." Left double quotation mark. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 022. No need to play? Another penalty from the head coach after breakfast. Dennis stood up from the stool first. "Steven, I won't go over and watch when we gather for morning training later. You go there then, and ask Feng to come to my office." Assistant coach Steven must arrive at morning training every day, and Dennis, as the head coach, just went to do random checks when nothing happened. After seeing Steven not in agreement, Dennis returned to his office, 8 o'clock in the morning. The bright and warm sunshine shines on Freiburg's youth training base. Assistant coach Steven stood on the sidelines, counting the number of players. After seeing that everyone had arrived, he gave orders to the team members. "Alger, you take the team members to warm up first, and we will conduct technical training later. At 10 o'clock, go to the locker room on time for a review of yesterday's game," Steven said and suddenly stopped, his eyes lingering on the body of a black-haired boy in the crowd. "Feng, Please wait for a moment. Mr. Dennis asked you to go to his office. Feng nodded, walked out of the queue, and stood next to Steven. He was not too surprised by today's situation. Although the head coach let them off the hook last night, he would definitely call him to the office for accountability the next morning during training. Oh, it seems that Brother Feng will definitely be punished by the head coach. I really don't know what kind of luck we have. Mr. Dennis shouldn't kick Feng out of the team, right? Fred. The other team members were worried about Feng from the bottom of their hearts. After last night's celebration, they admire Feng even more. They already regard him as the big brother of the team and hope to play with him and achieve excellent results this season. Mr. Steven, I am also responsible for what happened last night. Let me go with Feng to Mr. Dennis's place. Alger also stood up from the team. He did not want Feng to bear the punishment alone. Okay, Steven nodded and agreed. Of course, he also hoped that Alger's visit would make Dennis change his mind about not letting Feng appear in the next game. Then, under the leadership of Hardy, the team began to warm up on the green field. The three of them, Feng, went to the head coach's office together. Youth training building, outside the head coach's office. When Steven saw that the door was not closed, he did not knock on the door and walked directly in with the two of them. Dennis, I brought the wind here. Hearing the shout, Dennis put down his work, raised his head and looked over with resentment. But Alger, standing next to Feng, looked a little dazzling. Alger, why are you here instead of leading the team to warm up? Dennis narrowed his eyes and asked displeasedly. Head coach, I am also responsible for what happened last night. I called the team members to go to the nightclub together. Alger did not dare to look at Dennis, lowering his head and sounding a little unconfident. I thought, the team you should celebrate after defeating the strong Hamburg team. Dennis couldn't help but sneered and slapped his palms on the table. Did you win the Bundesliga championship? You just won in the youth league. After a fight, we actually went to a nightclub to drink together. If this is the case, you won't have to train in the future. How about just going to the nightclub to drink all day long? Then come back with a youth league championship. Okay, Steven said, read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. Slightly he frowned and stood aside to smooth things over. Dennis, the matter is not as serious as you said. The team members are all hot-tempered teenagers. They make mistakes for the first time. They only need to be severely criticized and educated to get rid of these bad habits. No need. Such harsh words. Dennis rolled his eyes at Steven, as if he was too lazy to discuss the entire team's problems with Steven, and turned his attention to Feng aside. What did Feng say? This isn't the first time you've done something like this, right? I didn't bother with you last time for being late or smoking, right? Now you're doing this to me again. Dennis spread his hands and expressed that it was difficult for him to handle this matter. Feng chuckled, shrugged, and responded unhurriedly. Mr. Dennis, I successfully scored 3 goals in yesterday's game. According to our agreement, you shouldn't be obsessed with what happened a few times anymore, right? Indeed, there was a trace of disdain in Dennis's eyes. Taking a deep breath, but this time you took the whole team to the nightclub to drink. Isn't it a bit too bad? In any case, I will not allow such a thing to happen in my team. Until you get rid of this bad habit, you won't have to play in the game. Upon hearing that Feng was not allowed to play in the game, the enthusiastic Alger was even more excited than Feng. Mr. Dennis, the next game we face is Dortmund U17, a strong defensive team. If the wind is not allowed to play, it will be difficult for us to win. Is this what you, the captain of the team, should say? Dennis. The voice rose by more than 10 decibels, and there was a lot of dissatisfaction with Alger's words in his tone. The team's victory is never achieved by relying on one person. The team can still play a good game without the wind. Alger may have realized that what he just said was a bit extreme, so he did not talk to Dennis. Keep arguing. He turned to look at Feng beside him and motioned for him to come forward and say something nice. But what Alger didn't expect was that Feng actually showed an indifferent attitude and said to Dennis with a hint of regret. Mr. Dennis, I am willing to accept your punishment. It's just something in my private life that doesn't seem to affect my performance on the field. I believe that in the future you will feel how important your decision just now is. Stupid, shut. Dennis slapped the table again, the anger on his face ready to come out, and he completely lost his gentlemanly demeanor. After calming down for a while, he seemed to be able to control his emotions and said to Feng and Alger, I will record this matter for you. If your attitude is still like this, You don't have to play in the future. Now, you guys go back to training." Feng nodded and then nodded. He turned around and walked out of the head coach's office without looking back. Seeing this, Alger quickly followed him and patted him on the shoulder. "Feng, there is absolutely no need for you to talk to the head coach like that just now. I believe that as long as you admit your mistake to the head coach, he will happily allow you to play." Of course, Feng knew what Alger said. However, Feng couldn't admit his mistakes and get rid of his bad habits, because he relies entirely on these bad habits to have such great skills. Without continuing special training, there is a high probability that his strength will only stay at the level of the Bundesliga first team, and he will miss out on the Bundesliga and miss out on the higher honors of football. Feng knew very well that this situation was not what he wanted. Now, he can only hope that Dennis, the head coach of the Freiburg youth training team, will not be as narrow-minded as Blair, the youth training director of Mönchengladbach, and expel him from the team. If this is the case, he can only look for the next head coach who agrees with him. Chapter 023. Not considered. Special game training in the dormitory. Afterwards, Feng and Alger returned to the team and continued to conduct technical training with the team. When it was 10 o'clock, assistant coach Steven asked everyone to stop what they were doing and come to the locker room on the sidelines. In the locker room of the Freiburg youth training base, in addition to a blackboard for formulating tactics, there is also an LCD TV screen hanging on the wall so that the coaches can review the players' games and analyze some of the playing styles of other teams. Regarding some issues from the previous game, assistant coach Steven analyzed everyone for a full hour before pointing out all their shortcomings. Of course, when Steven watched the replay tape, he also pointed out some problems with Feng's game. For example, there are problems such as not actively running forward and actively retreating to catch the ball. Feng nodded and said that he would try not to have this problem in the next game. But how to play next time? Is there any need to say? After Steven analyzed some problems in the last game against Hamburg, head coach Dennis got up from the sofa and walked to the LCD screen. "Okay, there's still a little time left. Let me tell you about the opponents we will face in the next league game." Dennis turned his head and gestured behind him, and another assistant coach immediately changed the Dortmund U17 past on the computer. The game video was pulled out. "Our next game is against the Dortmund youth team. It can be said that it is another tough guy, even stronger than the Hamburg youth team." The video of the Dortmund youth team's match against Bayern Munich began to play on the screen, and Dennis pointed at the screen and continued. "This is the video of the first game of the Dortmund youth team this season. They faced a strong team like Bayern Munich and their defense was still weak. The opponent organized several attacks, but they were all broken up by Dortmund's defenders." Regarding Dortmund's defensive strategy, Dennis conducted a detailed analysis according to the game process. It can be said that everything a head coach can do before the game is explained clearly. Even the coping strategies were explained. Dortmund's defenders have a strong sense of defense and are very accurate in their judgment of passing routes, but their only shortcoming is that they are a bit short in height. When we play away from home, we try to distribute the ball to the two wingers and pass the ball down. Rely on the physical advantage of the forwards to compete with them for headers. When formulating the plan, left winger Ball clearly discovered that head coach Dennis had brought him into the game invisibly. This means that he will still start in the next game against Dortmund U17. Moreover, Dennis's tactic did not take Feng into consideration at all. There is no way for a winger who is not actively running to execute the tactic of passing from the bottom to the bottom. If he is not actively running, how can the ball pass through the gap for him to take it to the baseline and pass? Thinking of this, the corners of Block's mouth raised slightly. He was also worried that Feng's excellent performance in the last game would steal his starting spot. It seemed that Dennis still put him on the bench because he took his teammates to the nightclub last night. After a long day of training, Captain Alger finished his dinner, said goodbye to Feng, and then followed Hardy back to the green field to conduct his own special training until 9 p.m. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. Alger was sweating profusely and dragged his tired body back to the dormitory. "Feng, I'm back," he greeted Feng when he entered, and Alger immediately took off his dirty clothes and prepared to go into the bathroom to take a cold shower. However, he found that Feng was still lying on the bed, and his posture had not changed from when he went out for training just now. "Are you still playing live football?" Alger smiled, walked to Feng's bed and looked at his phone. The screen of the mobile phone still shows the picture of the football game. "Well, I've been a little obsessed lately and have been playing. Su Feng didn't take his eyes off the phone and continued to operate it with concentration. Alger smiled bitterly, shook his head, turned and walked into the bathroom of the room. It's better for you. You don't have to practice anymore during the rest time. If I had your skills, I would stay in the dormitory all day playing games like you. Su Feng controlled Ronaldo gorgeously, continuously after passing two central defenders and scoring the ball with force. He put down his phone and flexed his knuckles. This is not an entertainment activity for me. Playing football games is actually a kind of special training. After experiencing the last game, Su Feng found that the youth team's defense was more solid this season. It is no longer as easy to get past them as it was when playing in the youth league with Mönchengladbach. And just in time for the next game, the Freiburg youth team will face the defensive team Dortmund. Regardless of whether Dennis will let him play, Su Feng believes that it is necessary to improve his skills at the feet. Hearing Su Feng say that playing games is also a kind of special training, Alger was a little confused. When playing football on mobile phones, in addition to feeling the skills of players with full abilities, can you also learn some skills from them? After Alger was stunned for a moment, he turned on the shower in the bathroom and started taking a bath. The sound of dripping water did not cover up his envious voice. Feng, how is this possible? Just don't do Versailles in front of me. Su Feng shook his head helplessly. Regarding the secrets of the system, he couldn't tell Alger directly, he could only make some insinuations. After chatting, the game loading screen had ended, and Su Feng continued to pick up his phone and start training. Not long after, the seventh electronic voice of the day came to his mind. Detected host playing the game for half an hour, dribbling ability plus 0.001, there's still 1.5 hours left. Su Feng felt relieved. He turned his head and glanced at Alger, who was lying on the bed playing with his mobile phone, changed his position, and then started his own special training. Chapter 024. Youth Training Data. First team coach's attention the next morning, Monday. Freiburg Administrative Building. Inside the head coach's office, a thick document appeared on the desk of first team coach Stretch, with a USB flash drive attached to it as an old football club. Freiburg has a very complete youth training system. This document is the information compiled by Freiburg's assistant coach in charge of statistics. In the USB flash drive, there are also some exciting videos of the youth training players' games. These will be delivered to the head coach's desk on time on the Monday following each match day. Freiburg's goal in the 2015 season is to be promoted from the Bundesliga 2 to the Bundesliga. However, due to the club's financial problems, they did not make too many reinforcements this season. Instead, they promoted several talented defenders from the youth team and placed them in the first team. Strachey sat on the office chair and rested for a while, drinking coffee, and began to read the youth training documents on the table. These data are arranged according to age, from U8 to U17. The games of young players are not interesting to watch, and it is impossible for Strachey to promote players from young players to the first team, so he watched them very casually and just glanced at them briefly. As for which players should be trained, that is a matter for the youth training echelon coaches. There's nothing wrong with Strachey's face after seeing the performances of his academy players in recent weeks, as he thought. There were no wonderful moments. He didn't even open the highlight video of the game. He nodded after turning to the last page of the Freiburg U17 data sheet. 3-2 Hamburg, not bad, obviously. Strachey knew the gap between Freiburg U17 and Hamburg U17, and was a little shocked by the result of this game. He took out a USB flash drive, plugged it into his laptop, and played the U17 game video. The video was deleted by the assistant coach, and only the highlight moments of scoring goals or defense were selected. After reading the beginning for a few seconds, Strachey frowned, a little confused because in the first half of the video, Freiburg had been passively defending and could not even organize an effective counterattack. A few good steals would never catch his eye in such a big environment, but after seeing player number 87 come off the bench, the offense and defense of the game immediately changed, which made Stretch's eyes shine a little. Hiss. After watching Su Feng's difficult volley, he couldn't help but take a breath and praised, "You are so skilled with your feet. The ability to control the intensity and angle of the shot is a complete talent." There was a look of satisfaction on Strachey's face. He was really impressed by the Chinese boy's skills with his feet. Impressed. These two volleys were really shocking. Some first-team forwards may not even be able to play. Moreover, this is definitely not a trick on his part. He is completely at the top youth team level. You can even be promoted to the first team as a substitute. Strachey nodded with a smile, becoming more and more optimistic about Su Feng's future. Thinking that he would have time to go and watch his performance live if possible, he can be promoted to the first team for training without exception, and he can assume the important task of Freiburg's first team forward in the future. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. Thinking of this, the video on the computer screen had ended, and Strachey turned to look at the data sheet in his hand in this game. Not surprisingly, all 3 goals were scored by Feng. However, when he saw piece of data, his face turned dark instantly. Playing time, 35 minutes, running distance of 1,400 meters. What the hell, is he walking on the court? Strachey couldn't believe his eyes at this moment. There is actually not much difference between the physical fitness of the 17-year-old youth team and the adult first team. Moreover, young people who have undergone special training may have more physical fitness than some veterans, and their running data will be more gorgeous. But during the entire second half of his appearance, he didn't even run 2,000 meters. What does this mean? Just stay in the opponent's half and wait for the ball to come to your feet. Strachey, who couldn't figure it out, looked at the data of other U17 players. Most of the players had running data of 8 or 9 kilometers. This made him very puzzled. Why is this happening? Is there something wrong with the data? Eager to confirm whether the data was correct, Strachey directly picked up the phone on the table and called the assistant coach in charge of statistics on the coaching staff. After getting confirmation from the assistant coach in charge of data that there was no problem with the data, he could only ask for all the video of the second half of the game to see why this happened. The video started playing at double speed after Feng came on as a substitute. After watching for about 10 minutes, Strachey slapped the table angrily, his expression turning grim. There is nothing wrong with this data. All are true. The reason why his running is so poor is entirely because this Chinese U17 youngster was very passive in the game, which resulted in him having a running distance of more than 1,000 meters. He simply has an attitude problem. How can such a player join the first team and play professional games in the future? Strachey couldn't help but think that his idea just now was too arbitrary. In his opinion, whether a professional player can achieve too high a level depends first on his professional attitude. If you can't even correct your attitude, no matter how talented you are, you won't achieve anything. This U17 Chinese youngster may be able to use his excellent talent to overpower his opponents and score goals in the youth league, but when it comes to the 5 major leagues where stars gather, this kind of attitude doesn't even qualify him to appear on the stage. Gently rubbing his temples to keep himself calm, Strachey turned off the video and put the files aside, preparing to start his day's work. It seems that he still needs to take some time to go to the youth training camp and see what these players are doing all day long. This lazy attitude must be corrected. Strachey slowly exhaled a breath, shaked his head. I originally wanted to take time to watch Feng's game, but now there is no need, not to mention promoting him to the first team. If he still has this attitude, whether he can stay in the youth training camp may still be a question worth discussing. Freiburg's youth training does not need idlers, but no matter what, Strachey thinks today's data report left a deep impression on a U17 youth training player in his mind. Chapter 025. Communication? The deafening roar in the training room. In the next few days, Freiburg U17 continued to carry out intense training. Feng's daily schedule is relatively regular. In addition to completing the coach's training tasks carefully throughout the day, he also dives into the dormitory to play live football games during his breaks. No rest time was wasted. Sometimes after meals or between training, the team members would see Feng picking up his mobile phone and playing games. This has led many team members to believe that Feng has become addicted to video games recently and has become an internet-addicted teenager. Captain Alger, who is in the same dormitory as Feng, saw all this and thought about reminding Feng to put the extra time into training. But I also thought that Feng's skills were outstanding among the team, and his daily training was also done very well. Such a rash reminder would be a bit rude, so he swallowed the words again. Thursday morning, the Freiburg youth training team conducted intra-team training matches as usual. Head coach Dennis made one change to the starting lineup based on his discussions with the coaching staff. The unsatisfactory winger Balk was replaced, a defensive midfielder was added, and the formation was converted to 4-4-2. This change allowed Freiburg U17 to face the defensively strong Dortmund U17, being able to switch to 4-2-3-1 formation in time. Captain Alger focused exclusively on offensive organization and actively moved forward to seize space, while the defense was all carried out by the 2 defensive midfielders. This can be regarded as liberating Alger, who can concentrate on organizing the front court offense and passing more threatening through balls. But Balk felt a little uncomfortable. He finally got rid of Feng and was able to secure his starting position, but due to the formation change of head coach Dennis, He was once again reduced to a substitute throughout the training match. Balk, who is on the substitute team, had a dark face throughout in this training match. The formation changes of Freiburg's youth training starting team can be said to be relatively successful facing the retracted defense composed of substitute players. He still scored 4 goals strongly, and because Feng rarely got the ball, he only scored 2 goals in the game, but Feng can accept this result calmly. He does not need to rely on his excellent performance in training games to gain Dennis's appreciation and become a starter. The 1 point of cool value that is steadily received in his account is his best reward afternoon because the Freiburg youth team's intra-team training matches are not very intense. Assistant coach Steven arranged appropriate individual training for each player. Feng and Hardy were arranged together in the strength training room for strength training due to the numerous training projects. Freiburg's assistant coaches cannot keep an eye on every player. They can only choose to help with some projects that require assistant coaches to assist in training. As for simple strength training, Feng and the others can only train on their own. Hardy still trains very steadily. From the moment he entered the weight room, he trained meticulously. Every time he was out of breath, he got off the equipment to rest for a while and replenished his water. On the other hand, Feng found a comfortable place to lie down and opened the game on his phone. The entire training match in the morning made it impossible for Feng to conduct his own special training. In order not to delay his sleep time at night, he had no choice but to start special training during afternoon training at the same time in the youth training camp head coach's office. After Dennis finished the work at hand, he habitually lit a cigarette for himself. "Steven, have you finished all your things?" While closing the laptop on the table, Steven chuckled, spread his hands and replied, "I don't have a lot of work today, I've already finished it." Watching the Dortmund U17 league match, Dennis nodded, stood up from his seat. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. It just so happens that our work is over. Let's go to the training room to see how the players are training. It has always been Dennis and Steven's habit to watch the players training before the game. Although the two of them are strict during training, they are still relatively friendly during normal times and can get along with the 17-year-old boys only by having a heart-to-heart talk and understanding the players' daily emotional conditions. Can the players bring out their best on the field? Come and bring greenery to the sidelines. After observing some players' short passing training, Steven started talking. "Old man, are you really going to let Feng sit on the bench in the next game? He is a good prospect and needs to use games to hone his growth." Dennis chuckled, threw the cigarette butt in his hand on the ground and stamped it out, turned his head to look at Steven and spoke. "I definitely know this." As he spoke, Dennis turned his head and looked at the bright sun hanging in the sky. "But rather than letting him appear on the stage, I hope his professional attitude can change. Only in this way, he can become a rising star in the football world." "That's okay, but I still suggest having a good talk with him." As Dennis' old partner, Steven understands that he also has a heart that he wants to cultivate. Feng was just a little paranoid in his approach, and wanted to put pressure on Feng through playing time, so that Feng would know his mistakes and passively change. But at this point, he didn't quite agree with Dennis' approach. Coaches and professional players are both teachers and friends, and should serve more as a beacon of direction. If there are any problems, you should communicate with the players in a timely manner. 17-year-old children are not very mature yet, and they have not yet reached the age where oil and salt cannot enter. Dennis stood there and thought for a while, and felt that he should really communicate with Feng to see what he was thinking now. "Well, let's go see Feng's training and ask him what he thinks. If he has decided to get rid of his bad habits and stop causing trouble for me against Dortmund after the game, I will develop tactics specifically for him." After saying this, Dennis turned around and prepared to walk towards the strength training room. Seeing this, Steven's face lit up with a bright smile. "This is right." The old man still listened to the advice. Then, Steven quickly followed up with Steven, patted him on the shoulder, and said half-jokingly, "Don't worry, I've already checked with several assistant coaches of the first team for you. And there's no news yet of you 17 players going to nightclubs to drink." Head coach Strachey won't know about this. Dennis exhaled a breath and replied with no confidence in his heart, "I hope so." It didn't take long. The two of them came to the door of the strength training room together. Dennis pushed the door open without knocking. When the head coach comes to make a surprise inspection of the team's training, there is no need to knock on the door. Squeak! A sharp sound of pushing the door sounded. After Dennis walked in, his eyes quickly swept across the room. When Hardy and several players who were training saw the sudden attack from head coach Dennis, they immediately stopped their movements and greeted him with a smile on their faces. "Hello, coach." Feng, who was lying on the training equipment aside, was engrossed in the game and didn't pay attention to who came in. However, When he heard the voices of the team members, he frowned slightly, froze for a moment, immediately put the phone behind his back, and stood up. The next second the deafening roar of head coach Dennis suddenly rang out in the training room. "What are you doing?" End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.